I can't change the fact that I'm black.
No.
I'm married and I have kids. Changes that.
Changes that.
You know, but it was painful to hear. But I know that I really went back and I processed it. I actually wrote her an email thanking her.
Wow. Jane Egerton-Idehen first made her mark navigating the complex, male-dominated world of telecommunications and engineering.
I took each of those things and I made them my superpower. And when I went to Meta, I told them these were all the superpowers that brought me here.
Since then, she has built a global career defined not just by corporate excellence, but by fearless intention. From managing diverse teams across Africa and the Middle East at tech giants like Meta, to authoring her deeply personal book, Be Fearless, Jane has consistently shattered the confines of a traditional career path.
I talk a lot about the fact that I'm a black career professional working in multinationals. I don't shy away about talking about being a career woman and managing marriage and my kids.
But beyond the boardrooms and the executive accolades, she is a woman fiercely committed to impact. Whether she is advocating for women in STEM, mentoring the next generation, or redefining work-life integration. Today, we move beyond the CV, beyond the executive summaries, and beyond the corporate titles, into the squiggly career, the raw convictions, and the woman behind the Be Fearless mindset, Jane Egerton-Idehen. Hi everyone. So we attended the same secondary school in Nigeria, but time meant that our paths never crossed. We also attended the same university and campus fellowships in Nigeria. Yet again, time kept our worlds apart. We both lived in Dublin at some point, at the same time, and yet we never met each other. But LinkedIn made it happen. LinkedIn gave me a mentor from far away to look up to. LinkedIn showed me what's possible when someone puts in the hard work and stays the course. A typical example of great. LinkedIn closed the gap that time and distance created. So this connection was made in LinkedIn. So today I have the privilege and honor of a lifetime to sit with no other person but engineer Jane Egerton-Idehen to learn from her. So far on this channel, we've covered managing your emotions, stress, receiving feedback well, squiggly careers and career moves, also founding a business, the modern investor, women, work and the weight we carry, and immigration, developing and sustaining a reading habit, fashion and capsule wardrobe, book reviews and summaries. We've also covered visibility, friendships, networking, relationships, and grants and opportunities, global leadership, and sub-Saharan African leadership. We've also covered emerging markets with Victor Okugo, and for the very first time on this channel, we have a guest, someone who embodies not just one segment, but every segment beyond the hype we see online, lived experiences, evidence, showing working. So it is my pleasure to welcome Engineer Jane Egerton-Idehen, the current MD and CEO of Nigeria Communications Satellite Limited, NIGCOMSAT. Ma'am, you are welcome.
Thank you
You
so
are welcome
much,
to this.
Chidima. Thank you. I've been listening to you, so it's definitely a pleasure.
Thank you so
Like I said, you end it. You end it right here.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to grab my notes. I'm going to write down because I'm here to, before the podcast, before anything, for me, I'm here for myself. I'm here to learn. I'm here to I don't take the access and everything for granted. It's an honor of a lifetime. Thank you so much, Ma, for agreeing for us to do this.
You're welcome. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Ma, for accepting my request. Thank you so much. Can I just ask, what made you accept this request? I just want to know.
Like I told you, you end it. So I kept thinking about it because when you first made that request on LinkedIn, I'm like, okay. She said she could do it anyway because I know I travel a lot. I thought it would be interesting because most times I tell you, oh, sorry, I'm in Abuja.
Yeah.
If you can come to Abuja, yes. But when you said you could do it anyway, You notice I didn't really respond. I just said, okay, I'll come back to you.
Yes, ma'am.
But when you did a book review, I'm like, who is she? You know, when you did the book review, I was like, did you guys see it? Somebody did a book review. Because I wrote that book in 2020. A lot of people have done book reviews, talked about it. You know, I'm actually busy writing another book. So you kind of have, you're moving on.
Wow.
So when I see she did a book review, but not just the book review. So I listened to the clips and I'm like, yes, she gets it. I think this person, she's got my attention. And you know, that's why I responded. I said, you've ended. Tell me, where do you want to do it?
Thank you so much.
Yes, I think that's really what got my attention. I love the fact that women can connect, because it was me trying to tell a personal story, but from the point of, because I remember when I was writing that book, how it actually started, the book should have been named A Letter to My Daughter. That's how I started. My daughter was 3 and I kept thinking, okay, I'm acquiring all these experiences.
Wow.
She's so young. How would she know? How would I remember? Then I said, you know what, we document it for her. So the original script, the header was a letter to my daughter. But of course, like a coach told me, that so many young women would love to learn. Even men want to understand your world and how they can support women like you. So yes, I was very happy when I found out that you understood the ethos of the book.
I had read, up until when I did that book review, I had read 95 books. And there was no other book that I saw myself in.
Yes.
Apart from that book, I was like, she understands it. I even told myself, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not mad, so to say, for my desires, what I want. It's not out of place. This is valid, and someone understands it.
Oh, I love that. I'm sure you like the next one too.
I will be the first person. I will be the first person, and I think I'm going to buy it for at least up to 10 people. At least I will. I'm looking forward to it, and I think towards the end, I'm also going to ask questions on if someone wants to write a book. I think this how do they go about it? This one is not in the card, but thank you so much. So, ma'am, our first question: when you look back, what do you think LinkedIn actually does for a person beyond job hunting when they use it intentionally?
So LinkedIn does a lot, but in a very simple terms, I think it really creates visibility for career professionals. Visibility, and you have to see it from a good point. So I know when I started posting on LinkedIn, it was more to share my thoughts because I love to learn. So as I learn, I'm curious, I want to share with others and see what's their thoughts or ask people questions. So it wasn't, the goal wasn't to create visibility. The goal was, you know how you read and you take notes? This is my own definition of taking notes. Now I'm taking electronic notes. But along the line, I've been on LinkedIn now for close to 15, 18 years. It really creates career visibility. But of course it has other value. You know, it's good for networking. If you like to network, connect with people. It's a good platform to learn. I even use it as a research resource. Yes. I'm looking for thoughts on topic, professionals on topic. Oh, wow. I use LinkedIn to connect. During the COVID period, it was a good way for me to connect with people virtually. I use it to recruit. I've recruited quite a lot of people on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And I've been recruited also via LinkedIn. I use it to validate recruitment process as well. I remember when I was in Meta, one of the things we used to do, even now, we were not even so interested in your CV because CV is very static.
Yeah.
CV is just telling me you did this at that time. How did you express yourself? What is your ethos? What do you believe in? How do you show up at work? What are you taking in from work? What do you appreciate?
Wow.
What are your values?
Yeah.
Now we start to see that on LinkedIn. And that's why for me it's a more dynamic platform. So the CV
like life documents.
Yes. So we really get to know a bit about you before we do the interview. So we use it for that. And sometimes people use it also for assistance, all kinds of assistance. So I always encourage people, be active, when people tell me, I'm, trying to do, I'm like, are you on LinkedIn? You should try and be on LinkedIn. Just even be there.
Let's be there.
Because that's for us a great source to validate a lot of the things you're trying to do.
Actually, absolutely. I was going to follow up with another question. What was your turning point on LinkedIn? Because I have studied your LinkedIn. I've studied your LinkedIn profile. Like, I don't think there's any week I don't go through your LinkedIn.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think it's hitting. I don't know if it's stalking status, but I do study because if I'm stuck and I'm like, okay, let me go and see at this point. Okay, when did she do this? I know when you went to Harvard business school.
Yes.
When you went. So I'm like, okay, what key maybe unlocks this level? I'll go back. I'll go back to the level I am maybe like 15 years ago from where you are, and I'll be like, okay, when she was here. Sometimes I'll go through some of the posts you made. So yes, I use LinkedIn a lot too, because sometimes some people may not be able to say some things. Maybe they've forgotten what they even did at that point in time. But if I can go back, I even look through other people's and okay, what's at this level, what did they probably do? And then I start putting one or two together. So
I think different phases of my career. Earlier it was just, you notice I was just posting content. Then I would just write, and you could see it was more curiosity. What do you think about this? So I saw this, I read this, I did this presentation, I went there. And then later it was actively taking what I have experienced and sharing. Because I found out I was also in rooms. Like you said, I went to Harvard. At the time I went to Harvard, a lot of people in my cohort didn't go to Harvard. I went there for a leadership course because I just got to the management role.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I felt I needed to acquire a little bit more skill set for that management role. Because this would be the first time I was going to manage loads of people at the same time. And not just loads of people.
Wow.
It was diverse skill set, diverse ethnic group, diverse country. So it was like a group of people all over the place. And I thought, oh, I think it will be fair to them if I also equip myself. So I went there. Yeah. Also, when I wanted to transition to boards, but I thought when I do those milestones, there'll be lots of people who don't have the opportunity I have. How do you share with them my own reflection of the learning? And sometimes I would share things I'm curious about, nothing to do. It could be being a career mom and managing my kids, or curiosity of watching my kids grow at different stages. I shared because people thinking, I was always learning. I was trying to learn from those experiences. I was learning from my kids, and the kids are learning from me. So I would share that thought. So I also use it. So when I recruit, I put it, if you check my method days, every recruitment I've done, I'll put that thing on the post and say, hey, if you're interested, do apply.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So for someone who is watching this podcast probably for the first time, in let's say 60 seconds or 2 minutes, can we meet you?
So in a very simple way, I am one woman that is very passionate about intersecting technology with the world we live in, using technology to solve real life problems. That's one of the things I'm passionate about. I have a history of being drawn to younger talent because I feel it's a great way to impact and keep a door open. I'm particularly biased to women in tech because I know that they do go through challenges being a minority in that field. But for me, ultimately, I think my goal is that wherever we find ourselves, whatever skill sets we acquire, we have a nature to continuously learn and share so that we can make the world a better place. So that's Jane Egerton-Idehen in simple terms. Everything we acquired along the way is to help us on this journey.
They're just tools we collected. I really, one thing that stood out for me is you keep emphasizing on learning. And for me, I think I got to a point in my life where I'm like, I don't think I will ever stop learning. Like I'm just here to learn.
I don't think you should. And you should do diverse learning. You know, like we were talking earlier. Don't only learn from your sector. I started to learn that, especially when I got into management, because I found out that I was solving problems in my sector from learning from other sectors. So I remember I did some analysis with my coach, and we mapped out everybody. We call them proximity, or your network, your social network.
Yeah.
And everybody I knew was in tech, something to do with tech. And she said, what do you want to do about it? I said, I'm going to change it. And this was 2013 or 2014. So I remember when I came to Nigeria in 2017, I told her, I said, this is a great transition point. So I reached out to a great friend that is a wonderful social connector. I would tell her, see, I'm trying to make new friends. I want to connect with people. But the only exclusion is I don't want people in tech. And people think that was weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, anybody, but not in tech. Like, I know so many people in tech. So I would connect with artists, painters, people in... But then what I realized is that because when I started solving problems, I was learning from people from other sectors. People would tell me in pharmaceuticals how they solved a certain problem. I'm like, this is what we are struggling with. Okay, I'll take that idea. I'm going to poach that idea and use it. So I thought, wow, learning is interesting if you learn to, create no barriers with your learning experience. be curious enough to want to learn about other sectors, other fields. Learn something new, something different. Come out of your own comfort zone and do something that is a little bit uncomfortable by learning something weird.
I agree. I think I started getting this urge to leave my sciencey, because when I would go for conferences, like biology conferences, I would be meeting business analysts. I want to talk to you. This was like 3 years ago. Something about me, I felt I was in like is it an echo chamber you call it? I wanted to hear what was happening outside of my own environment. And it's really, really, so like we were discussing before this, I can meet someone in cybersecurity and we have like 3 hours conversation.
Yes.
And you're like, how did you know all that? I'm like, yeah, I read about cybersecurity.
I think that's where the world is going. You see interdisciplinary roles. So people can take the humanities and science and solve problems in a unique way we haven't seen in the past. So I will always encourage people to, you want depth, but you want breadth. What that gives you is breadth.
We covered this on my other YouTube channel, breadth versus depth versus breadth, which one specialist or generalist. And I think, so whenever I have this conversation, let's say with my spouse, because he's an engineer and his own path has worked for him, he will always be in favor of depth because it has worked for him.
Specialization.
And he has
hyper-focused on something.
Exactly. Because he has built it, but I think if him himself, even though he's going deep, he also branches out, because if he's doing, let's say, fire engineering, he's doing hydro. But I think largely he's just been in engineering, although he has those sales skills, but he doesn't understand the concept of squiggly career. I think he understands it because I've had to do it as a way to cope in my own career, but he doesn't think it's I can tell that he's not not welcoming, but I don't think he sees it as a valid. This is
and it's okay. I don't think everybody. You see some people that will do it forever. You think like the Virgin guy. You wonder why would he, from doing airplanes, somehow he wants to go to space, and because the way he sees the world is maybe from a solving problem point of view, not necessarily, but being curious about how can I help you with my skills solve your own problem in your sector. And you see that in people like a bit like Elon Musk. If you wondered, today is robots, tomorrow is cars, and then he's going to space. Soon probably he'll be doing fashion, God knows. But that's because
he's done perfume. Elon has released the perfume.
I told you so. It's also the way you see the world, but I think it also allows the world to solve problems in very interesting ways. And that's why you could apply science to fashion. These days you could, using an AI agent, take a measurement without even having a tailor to do your measurement. That's why you look at that app and you put your picture, and the app scans in through and starts recommending makeup. But that's us using science and fashion to solve problems. I think that's what it creates. It creates that humanity we see, where the sectors are interdisciplinary.
Because I do see in some companies, like if I have friends, let's say they're engineers or they're architects, they never understand why they should apply for a sales job, even though they do need an engineer. So some people, it's just the way they are. I think they don't know how to.
I think will always be specialists. Not everybody will get into that squiggly path. You also do need them, because then they'll be hyper focused on that.
We do need them, because when I was discussing with Victor, he said we actually do need people who would stay long enough in that field alone to be able to break barriers there. So I think it's understanding. So whenever I'm talking, I'm like, I don't think you fully understand. Some people don't fully understand squiggling, and I don't even think those who are squiggling even fully understand it. They just go.
Because sometimes it's serendipity. Like if I think about how I moved from engineering to sales, it's not like I sat down one day like, I should try something. It wasn't intentional. It was me doing my job, but having to do a job that had a little bit of an overlap, without knowing I had skill set to do that. But because I challenged myself, it showed up she had a good amount of skill set to just bridge various sectors. So other people saw that in me, but I didn't see it, because I still thought myself, I'm still an engineer. That's all I care about. I'm an engineer. But other people saw, no, the ability to move in and out of different sectors, operations, units, and still carry them along. That's a unique skill.
So is it safe for anyone watching to be able to say, okay, if I want to know these other soft skills or transferable skills that I have, should I use others as my, how do I put it now, to reveal that? Like, can I go to someone and say, what do you think?
So what I normally use that in especially younger people that are trying to discover themselves and they're trying to assess, because Marcus is I don't have that book here, Berkman, if he talks about growing your career from your place of strength. So I always advise people, I prefer to grow a career from your place of strength because the things you're good at come naturally. So when you invest more time, you even become an expert. But you do it easily, you know. So a great way to do what we're talking about is to, one, use people that are close to you, especially if you're not that self-aware. If you ask them, what do you think I'm good at? What would you think of Jane and say, Jane, that's her. And they will tell you, because sometimes you can't articulate it.
You can't.
If you're very self-aware, is to reflect, what is that thing when you do it? You lose all, you don't have any awareness of everything. You just hyper-focus. You get into the zone. No sense of time. That's another way to identify. For those that are self-aware, you're like, anytime I'm reading this, I'm cooking, or I'm coding, or I'm doing this. Like, I don't want to do, I'm just in my happy place. I will do it forever. Even something like I say, something you do, even though nobody's going to pay you, you would do it. So that's another way to get it. So, but you can use also tools. There's some tools that you use, like a SWOT analysis.
Oh, yes.
And that could also, because it's in your strength, you get the opportunities, and in the weaknesses that tells you where the threats are. So you could use tools like the SWOT analysis to also identify that part.
Amazing.
But that's the one way to do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I think we're going to go into the second segment of this, managing emotions, stress, and feedback, because we've also covered that on the Quiet Learner channel. What does stress look like at your level, CEO level, for those of us who have not worn those shoes? What does it look like? And because I always say there's this, is it idiom now or proverb? I always say, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. We can never, like for me, I can't even understand what pressure looks like at where you are. So what have you learned about staying calm when the stakes are national, public, and high impact?
So what is actually stress? Stress is if you have a limited, I'm trying to paraphrase using scenarios. If you have a limited time to achieve something that is high priority, that's why it's stressful. If it wasn't high priority, it is not, it's just urgent tasks. It's not important. You dump it. You either delegate it or throw it out of the window.
Yeah.
Once it's very important, it's an urgency tied to it, and you either have limited resources, it becomes stressful because you are now in the critical zone of trying to solve something where you have to figure out some kind of creative way because resources are limited. Stress could also be being in a situation where you don't believe you have all the competencies you need for it. Because if you have the competencies, it's comfortable, isn't it? It's like someone asking me, Jane, talk about chapter 1 of your book. I'm like, let's go about it. I wrote the book. But if someone comes to me and say, hey, we want to have an interview with you in 5 minutes and we want to talk about the first constitution of Nigeria, and I know you haven't read it, but I'll give it to you. You know, that becomes a little bit stressful because I'm thinking, I haven't even read it. And you said we only have 5 minutes.
Wow.
You know, so that, so sometimes when you don't have the full competencies or resources and there's a time limit, it becomes stressful, especially if it's important. So in my job, it could show up in different ways. You could be having to engage stakeholders on something that is really important and you don't have all the resources like time.
Wow.
You know, I'm trying to close out something. I need to close it out by this time, but by all my calculation, the time is limited for the work I have to do, or I don't have all the necessary resources, all the kinds of competencies I need. So you're trying to make it work with what you have. And it could be stressful. It could be really stressful. If it's very important, it could be stressful. Like I know my current job, one of the things that, and you know, there are different kinds of stress, but the goal is not to remain in a stressful position for too long a time. And that's why as leaders, you have to manage your stress. So we talk about, just like athletes, you have to learn to, we call it take a break and revive yourself. Sometimes it's short breaks, sometimes it's long breaks. So you have to know, because most times what I've discovered, once you take those breaks you could call it to rewind or, relax or take a retreat, you see a different perspective, a perspective you haven't seen
before.
Because in a stressful position, you're mostly, it's like fight or flight. You are in that mode. and you're hyper focused and you don't see perspectives. So you don't see options. You think that you only have this option and then you're stressed out. And when I see this, people like, even I teach my kids, they're like, no, why do you want me to take a break? The exam is 2 days time. I'm like, because if you sit down at that desk for another 8 hours, you have peaked. Take a break and come back. And you might come back and realize, okay, maybe the method I'm reading, maybe I should try looking at this, or maybe I should call somebody, or maybe I should watch this YouTube video about it. So that change in perspective could actually give you the solution. And that's one of the things athletes are good at. So you have to really learn to take short breaks sometimes. So when you're in a very tough situation, just take a break. I want to catch some air. I wanted to do some breathing exercises. If it's just a short time. But if it's time that allow you to take a weekend, do something different. So I will do that. If it's so stressful, I will do something that has no connection with what is stressing me. And you'll be shocked. It could be things like just go shopping. It has nothing to do. Or you see that I have a work-related issue, and all of a sudden you see her. Someone say they're having an event, or maybe it's an art event. It has nothing to do with your work. I'm like, yeah, I want to go. Yeah. And you'll be shocked. You'll be like, she'd be like sitting down there and really stressing out, but she decided, because that break you give your mind or your brain allows it to see all the different perspectives. And so for me, that's one of the ways I manage stress. And there's some ways you manage routine stress, which is a daily thing. You go to work, you need to engage, you would have those daily inflections. It could be things like exercise. I use that a lot. I started exercising since I was 25, and people ask me why. Because they're like, 25, how much? I didn't even weigh up to 50 kgs, but that wasn't the goal. I wasn't going to the gym because I wanted to lose weight. I was going to the gym to de-stress.
Wow.
That's how I de-stress. So I will go to the gym. But I do other things like I dance because it's fun. And the muffins come in. And you notice that after dancing, you come back home, and that thing that looked like it was the end of the world was no longer the end of the world. And it could be short things like really take a long bath. You know, I do my aha moments in the bathroom. I've gotten crazy ideas just sitting under the shower. And like, I never thought about this. So my daughter always has long bath, and she has now decided that was her own excuse. I'm like, why are you bathing for 1 hour? I said, Mom, that's why I do all my thinking. Just like you. I'm really doing all my thinking in the bathroom. But I think that's because you're taking your brain, you're moving your mind off that hyper focus to just try other things, and there it finds the answers.
I think for me, it used to be cooking when I used to cook for long, but now I don't cook for a long time. So I'm going to find that moment. I think then walking, I do walk because I don't like high intensity.
And nature is a good way. Some people do nature. I know a lot of women that do cooking. You see their stress, they say, oh, let's go cook. And in cooking and gisting and taking themselves out of the stressful situation, they come back and they're more energized, because that's what you're trying to do, renew your energy. It's not like your brain could do it, but you've been so hyper-focused, you haven't given yourself a chance.
Wow. Thank you so much. Can you let us into a piece of feedback you received that initially stung, but later became a gift?
I've always received feedback, but I've learned to see feedback as a gift. And, you know, it's not like when I say gift, people think it's going to be it's not like when you receive a gift that you're disappointed. That kind of a gift. So it's not always you're very happy with the feedback. But it's learning to see it as a gift. There could be a learning here. So I always, one of the great ones I always remember, because I shared it in my book, was when I was trying to get into management position in a multinational. You know, I was like really giving it my best. I was like, to try this, do this. I don't think anybody thought I should try. I was trying. You know, then of course it was looking like it wasn't happening. I was always being passed for promotion. I remember my boss telling me, oh, the head of HR was going to be in town. You should go and see her. She was an American lady. So I was all like geared up. I came with my CV already, and I gave her the CV, and I told her, hey, look I'm really trying to get into management. I don't know why I can't. I've tried. And she looked at it and said, wow, it's like you've been on plateau. It's like all these roles are all similar, just changing names. You haven't really moved. Then I'm like, yes. And I was like, yeah, so what do you think about and all that? What should I do about it? And she told me, this is what has worked against you. The fact that you're Black, you're married, you have kids. Like literally she's really talking about all the things that that I thought was the Jane. And she's saying all those things are subconsciously working against you. Now, maybe the way she framed it, I was literally a bit pissed off. I'm like, these are things you can't change. I can't change the fact that I'm Black.
No.
I'm married and I have kids. Who changes that?
Changes that?
You know, but it was painful to hear. But I know that I really went back and I processed it. I actually wrote her an email thanking her.
Wow.
That even though I'm trying to figure out all this, but I really want to thank her for the feedback. Because she was blunt. Nobody has ever had the guts to tell me that. I didn't like it, but I did process it. And you know what I did? I took each of those things and I made them my superpower. And when I went to Meta, I told them these were all the superpowers that brought me here.
Wow.
You see, I talk a lot about the fact that I'm a Black career professional working in multinationals. I don't shy away about talking about being a career woman and managing marriage and my kids. I share a lot about my kids and the process of bringing kids up as a career-focused woman on the African continent, working for multinationals. So instead of taking those things and hiding them or discarding them, I decided to shine a light on them to say, these things are the things that make me really who I am. They're my superpower. I cannot change them, but they do have their strengths. And I say that because one of the things I tell people, the largest deal I closed, I strongly believe I closed that deal because I was a woman.
Wow.
Because the people I was competing with couldn't do what I could do. So I had been trained to see, you know, when you have to build relationship with clients, for those kind of big stakes, we'll take them out. And most times the clients at the top are men. So we're going to a club to have drinks and we can talk over drinks. But I'm a married woman with kids. So I'm trying to put the kids to bed at 9 p.m., not go to a club and have drinks. So it normally doesn't work. The best I can do is dinner, but then I have to run up after dinner. There's homework to be done. So it was seen as a limitation. But I swung it around. When I found out the person on the other side I was meant to be engaging was a woman, I said, okay, what do we have in common? It's this. So you'll be shocked to see, like, on the 24th of December, I'm in her kitchen and we're cooking together and talking business. And I'm like, yes, so this is what my proposal is. But I do like the stew you're cooking. I haven't cooked this type of stew before. Tell me how this is working. Nobody could do that because none of my other competition could show up in her kitchen. They didn't even have the reason to show up in her kitchen. The fact that, you know, the person we were all trying to win over will call me and say, hey, I have a speaking engagement Saturday morning, but my babysitter is on leave.
Wow.
And I don't know if I can make it. I'm like, no problem. I'll come babysit my kids and your kids. I'll take them out to the playground. And you do your speaking engagement, then you meet us at the playground. And maybe after that, the kids and all the kids will have ice cream and we could call it a day. But then while we do that, I was sneaking a word or two. Did you see my proposal? What do you think about the proposal?
Wow.
While we kids are having ice cream and playing around. So, and I realized that was a superpower. They couldn't do that. And they were challenged. They knew they were challenged. So I took each of those things that I was giving a feedback, because it's also how you see feedback. For me, she was sincerely telling me subconsciously, this is what people are judging you with, and they're not telling you. In the boardrooms, they're saying, we can't send Jane to Uganda because Jane is married and she just has a 3-month-old. Let's send this other guy. But nobody had asked me to say, Jane, do you want to go to Uganda? We think you're the right fit, but we're worried that you just came back from maternity. So subconsciously, it was working.
Yeah.
And things like, we needed to send a manager to lead the team in Singapore, but we recognize that the team in Singapore is fairly of this ethnic bias, and with someone like this, be able to maneuver it. But those things are just subconscious. Nobody's going to tell you to your face. So all I did was really invest my time in learning and turning those things around. I think some of the things I used to do was really put out that elephant in the room when I enter. That's one of the first things I do.
Yeah.
So if I was sitting at an interview, I'd tell you things like, the fact that I'm married with kids doesn't really stop me from moving to that country and working for you. I put that elephant right out.
So most I just times, wrote it down to ask.
Yes,
I was like, how did you consciously tell them that you were available?
I was very intentional, like no way. So we would pick it on the table right up in front. I would tell you things like, I am very good in really managing multi-diversity, no matter the ethnic group, be them from Pakistan, Iran, this last time I managed it. So you were really putting out the elephant out there because they weren't going to say it, but they were already using it to judge you. So
I think this conversation is first for me. It's first for me. I always, because I'm processing everything, because I think I would say I'll go back to what you said about this feedback that was given to you. It was given to me too, but I don't think I took it well, because I felt, because being in the UK, this my boss told me, and it was coming from a very good place. She told me, having a child is a disadvantage for you, and I did not take it. I didn't say anything, but I didn't use it the way you used it. And this is the point where I've come to knowing that was actually feedback.
Feedback is a gift. So I would say, and sometimes it doesn't mean that the other person giving the feedback has good intentions. But I think what you're looking for is, where are you headed to? And how can you use it as a stepping stone? People could throw that stone with the intention of hurting
you.
Or, because being blunt sometimes means you're not really considering the person's emotional state. You're just throwing them that stone, hoping that, whatever, I've told you what I need to tell you. But that's you being very smart about it, to say, yes, they might not have been well versed to know that the other person has emotions. So the way you pass the information, but still, if this could be a problem, how can I use this and turn this around? Yes.
I think one of the things, I do appreciate people who are authentic, because they say what others don't have the guts to say. So looking back now, that was really good feedback. And I think for me, I'm going to be more intentional in saying, okay, this does not stop me putting it out there. I think this is something.
And it's always good to have people like that in your corner. So I'm very, in choosing my friends, I want friends that can also be mirrors. There are friends that encourage you, some friends are like mirrors. A mirror sees your actual reflection and tells you what nobody's going to tell you. Because especially when you climb into management and leadership, there are very few people that will give you feedback. Now you seek for big feedback. Nobody will want to hurt you, or people want to be in your good books. So everybody is trying to play nice. So you're then looking for people that would intentionally tell you, like, Jane, I saw that interview. I don't think we should be doing that. We shouldn't be talking that way. I think you're not sensitive. But that's because they're giving it to you from a good place. So you have to intentionally put those types of people around in your circle. Don't go for uniformity. Everybody is like saying nice things. Look for people, and I think sometimes your spouses do it well.
My husband does it very well.
Because you know that they're doing that. If nothing more, we're all in this together. So if you tell me, then it's really worth it. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I'll go to the last question on managing emotions, stress, and feedback. So when you are, let's say, triggered by conflict, slow systems, unfair criticism, politics, what's your real-time process for responding instead of reacting?
So I'll start by saying it's situational based. So it's not like I have one clear cut, but I'll tell you some of my go-tos when there are these types of triggers. I like to reframe. If you've read Stephen Covey, because when you reframe, you're trying to see it from that other person's point of view. It's like looking at the Mona Lisa. Everybody says she's smiling, and that person, no, she wasn't smiling. She looked upset or she looked confused. So in reframing, you're trying to show empathy to say, why would this person be seeing this from this viewpoint? That's something I missed. And most times it requires you do a little bit of research. Then you find out, once, like I found out from a client that, that client had been hurt in a certain way before. So he's responding to that trauma. It's nothing to do with me, but because of that experience, when he sees these types of things, his triggers are up. That's reframing. So it means that when I come into the situation, it's more with empathy. I don't go like, you know what you did the last time, I will not take it. I go with, say, I understand that in the past, there might have been things. And I really do appreciate the fact that you're trying to explain to me that this for you is a no-brainer, but this is what I'm trying, So it helps. Reframing helps. Other ways that helps is also trying not to react immediately. So in most cases, I don't react immediately. It's always good to process, really, really always good to process, because processing that sometimes my husband like, you're overthinking it, but I think processing is allowing you to gain perspective, do all that. So that, but sometimes it doesn't allow you to, how people want to, respond, don't take it standing, but I think it brings out that maturity, that even though when you do a response, you have considered the options. Because what most people don't consider is the impact. I was speaking to someone the other day, and I told them the way you're trying to respond, what you should think about is what's your bigger goal? with this small conflict, or this is more like just a short-term conflict, would that deter you from achieving the bigger goal? Is it worth it? Is it, in the scheme of things, do you think it's a priority? Can we let it go? Do you have to address it? So that's also when you don't do it immediately. That's what it allows you to do, is to now really process what's the impact, what's the bigger play. In the bigger play, is this an important thing? Do we need to address it? Or can we see this as a minority in the bigger? I think that just is really going to give you perspective.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I think for me, I don't know. For me, I know that I make mistakes still. Sometimes instead of me to take time, I still respond. So, but the older I get, I found myself sometimes not everything needs my response. I don't even respond at all. My friend will call it quanta energy, that you have the finite amount of energy, so just focus on things that matter and
I
give
know
your
that
time to it.
earlier in my career, so I used to have a great mentor, and that's one of the first things he had taught me was great leaders manage their emotions. So great leaders, if you have to be a great leader, you have to learn to manage your emotions. Your emotions shouldn't manage you. Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean you have to express and react in that certain way. So people can do whatever they want. What's important is how you react. And once you're in the driver's seat of how you react, you see that that's how you change it. I used to say one of the best clients, everybody was telling me, oh, this is your best client. Until somebody said, you have never seen Jane when she first met this client. This client literally used to call her names.
Whoa.
That type of client, people that will call you names, like they now make it personal. Like, this is a stupid question. Why did you ask a stupid question? You're like, wow, we should be
professional here.
But I think it's some of these things we are talking about. Now, what do you do? Because what they are doing is a reflection of who they are. It's really not about you. So the important thing is, how do you react?
How do you respond?
So you determine how you control the space. And once you can manage your emotions, I think that's how you take the higher level. You be more mature. And even when others view it, I'm like, oh, she's very mature. For this guy's that's jumping around, all over the place. She has handled it in a very professional and mature way.
Thank you so much. Because one of the things I realized when I was getting to my 30s, nobody cares what that person did to you. Everyone is always going to look at how you responded. No one cares what happened. It's always how you responded.
It's your response. So and I think for me, that's what puts you in the driver's seat and in control, is you choosing
your power.
Choosing your power.
Your power.
And I think you're in the driver's seat when you choose to, don't be driven to respond the way the other person wants you to respond.
That's for, like, when you're talking of the fruit of the spirit and all that self-control. I say, no, I'm going to choose how I respond. You won't push me to respond. And I would say, for me, when it comes to emotional well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being, the emotional state of someone does affect even their physical health. So having huge control over emotions, I noticed that for women, actually some of the women, when they come to this channel, they go to the managing emotion course because it's a huge driver for us. Because patriarchy is going to trigger you. So many things are going to trigger you, even at the workplace. So managing emotion, once we get to that point of we can manage that emotion, we see ourselves flourishing in a lot of things. We start thinking clearly about our career. We start seeking out mentors, because one of the things that mentors will do is that they should be able to tell you the truth, and you should be able to receive it well. When you ask for feedback, even if the person does not sandwich it good and then the thing in the middle and then give you should be able to receive. So that emotional maturity to even grow, it starts from being emotionally mature. So thank you so much for I really learned a lot, and I've written down a lot. I'll go back to my notes and I'll watch this video over and over again. I'll go to the third section, squiggly career and career moves. If we can ask, how did you choose that next move? I know we discussed a little about this yesterday, but from engineering, why did you, how was it that, okay, you did not progress, let's say from this level, senior engineer, this one engineer, how did you choose that squiggly from engineering to sales and then back to?
So just like I mentioned it yesterday, originally it wasn't intentional. So I wouldn't say, I think it was more like a serendipitous moment. I've always been a planner, like a goal setter. I write my goals, what I want to do year 1 year. So actually, even I plan my career in a way because I've written all these goals of all the things I'm going to achieve year 1, year 2.
Wow.
So, and I'm like now hyper focused on trying to achieve it. But what had happened is that I had found myself in a project that had allowed me show various aspects of my skill set I wasn't even intentionally aware. And other people are like, oh, you're so good at this. So it's back to figuring out your strength. But in my head, I'm like, no, this is my career path. This is what the goal said. We're going to do this. We're going the technical route. We are having no intention in, diverting.
No detour.
No detour. We were clear. We knew what year 2, year 3. We had planned it. There were goals for every year. There was a 10-year plan and a 5-year plan. So until a lot of people were putting pressure on me to make me realize, hey, like a mirror, see, you're so good at this. We are paying people to do this, and you're doing it naturally. Without even being trained. And we have people we are paying to do, they can't even do what you do. It's a lot of pain. It's a stressful thing for them. And you do it effortlessly as if it doesn't mean anything.
Wow.
So one of my mentors helped frame it for me. And he started with, where are you headed? So don't worry about how you get there. Let's talk about where you headed. Wow. And I painted the picture ultimately where I saw myself in 10 years and said, okay, that's great. Do you understand that there are other paths to there? I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like there are other paths. And there even might be some paths that along the road you can collect additional resources. Like you can make more money.
More money.
And I think when he painted it in that manner, it was like, okay, this makes sense. Okay, maybe it's worth considering.
Wow.
And also maybe because I also love a challenge, I'm like, okay, maybe then I'll try it. So originally it wasn't intentional, but I think after going through that phase, now understanding that in life, we have to learn to sit in discomfort and learn from the process.
Wow.
Because sometimes it's easy to stick to your comfort zone. You have planned your goals, you saw yourself, whatever. These disruptions, like I call them, they're very uncomfortable because, first of all, I don't even understand. So what do I then do with this new path?
Very uncomfortable. I'm in that path now.
It's very uncertain. I can't even tell what happens next, I don't know how this new path will play. It's like a whole uncomfortable position. Uncharted territory. So now I actually once in a while intentionally put myself in these uncharted territory.
Wow.
Because that's how you drive growth as well. Because then you start to see the Jane you didn't even know. So one of the things I did was take an appointment for someone that's been in the private sector for over 2 decades.
Wow.
Everybody thought, why do you want to do that? This is uncharted. People sometimes do it and they don't survive it. And this is new. Do you think you have the skill set? I'm like, okay, we can never tell until we try.
Until you try.
So I have now realized that sometimes you have to intentionally now seek out, because it's in seeking out these hurdles that you create growth. The fact that I was very comfortable. I, for years, used to say I was a career person on the Pan-African continent with a great understanding of navigating the market until I got a role that told me, hey, we want you to not just manage Africa, we want you to manage Africa and the Middle East. And Middle East for me was a blank. I'd never, managed anything in the Middle East. I'm like, this will be new, this will be different.
Wow.
But maybe it's worth trying. And like I would tease, I did it in the middle of COVID when I couldn't even travel and see people. Like we already had the discomfort of COVID. We were stuck in a situation we hadn't been in.
Wow.
And then I told myself I was going to go for a whole new continent.
Wow.
So, but I think in those things it brought growth. Because there's a lot of skill sets I acquired doing that. And it's just like what I'm doing now. There's a lot of skill set I'm acquiring doing this. And that's how you challenge yourself. It's not always to be in the comfort of your strength.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. I think we have just 2 more questions in this section and then we'll move on. So can we ask, what are five portable skills you think every professional should build? Skills that survive layoffs, migration, industry changes, and tech disruptions.
So definitely you have your hard skills. So your hardcore skills. So if you're an engineer, you're a pharmacist, you're a medical doctor, those are like really hardcore skills. I think it's always good to have a hardcore skill. But skills that really put so well are soft skills. And soft skills could be the ability to negotiate, to communicate, very good analytical skills or diagnostic skills, because those skills are not tied to any sector per se. They are transferable skills. Ability to negotiate or communicate. You use that everywhere. You could use it in a boardroom, but you could use it in pitching an idea. But then you can use it in selling.
Yes.
Even sales skills come across that way as well.
Absolutely.
If you're able to acquire that. So I always would encourage people to acquire them. Team building skills, social skills, they're very good. Because if you're going to work with diverse sets of people, you're going to work with your most chances you are going to work with more than one person.
Yes.
So really understanding team dynamics, how to collaborative skills are really important. Because at the end of the day, even though you're working, you're saying, okay, in the job I work, I'm so an expert, I'm the only one. You still form in one way, you need to collaborate with another team, another unit,
absolutely.
Or a client. So those, for me, those are skills. If you do, they're quite a lot, but if you could acquire these skills, you will notice you could transfer them job to job, and it doesn't change.
Thank you so much. I think I would also add like operations, projects, and then some people would go for data, because you can take them anywhere as well. Thank you so much. So the last one is career risk management. Is there a framework that helps you with taking career risk without being, in quotes, let's say reckless? Because as someone who has children, maybe someone is watching, they have a family, they have children, mouths to feed. How can they take those risks without being reckless of, let's say, without a job, being laid off, especially for women who can't really afford career mistakes?
So I'll start by saying that you do have to at least have appetite for some kind of risk, because definitely changing the status quo is already taking a risk. Now, of course, we don't want to be reckless, so we want what we call calculated risk. So you want to look at the risk and the reward, and you then prioritize it. And that's why you really go into that scenario plan, and that's what I would say. One of the key things you're looking for is where you really headed to. I think you should probably have some kind of place you're headed to. It might not be ultimately where you head to. It's like having a vision, but you should. It creates some guidance. It could change, but always have something. I would always recommend that, because you can use that to frame this. Because if you use that, then what you're trying to do, does it add to it? Does it take me there? Does it take me closer? Just that awareness is good to know. It's better to say, okay, it's not going to take me closer, but it's going to give me money. And maybe at this time, it's resources I need.
Resources are important.
It's not going to take me closer, but it will keep my skills warmed up for the meantime while I try to do this. So it's in reference to where you're headed to. It's always good to frame that. Then in terms of if you've actually done that, you have to weigh the pros and the cons as well. For that, I always like to do that. We always do a detailed analysis, because it doesn't always mean that while you're weighing the pros and cons, you have to know what you're going to get out of something. Does it align with what you want at that time? What's your need?
Wow.
So at a certain time, maybe your need is for more time. So you have to first articulate what that need is.
Just wrote them down.
Oh, okay.
I was writing. So what I was writing. So because sometimes when I'm looking for a job, I didn't mean to interrupt. Is it visibility I want? Is it money, skills, learning, time, and balance? So
it's always good to articulate the needs. Because if you articulate the needs, when you're doing the pros and cons, that's what you're weighing against. You say, okay, it will give me this, but it won't give me this. But what are the pros? Does it align with my needs for this time? And that's why we also shouldn't judge other people's career journey with ours. Don't do that, because they took a calculated risk, because at that time that's what they needed.
That was what helped.
So I've taken career steps that look like it took a step backwards, but because at that time it was going to give me what I need. What I need is not what you need. So what is need is what works for you. But what I needed at that time, it gave it to me. And at that time, that's what was important.
That was what was important.
You understand? So you always want to do that. First of all, try and articulate, what do I need now?
No.
Is it more time?
Yeah.
Do I need more family time? No. I need more resources. No, I try to acquire more skills. No, I need exposure to leadership. So I need a place that gives me access. Just articulate. Oh, I need place that'll give me more visibility. If you articulate your needs, then you weigh it against vis-a-vis those opportunities. and then you make the call that is beneficial to you because it's your career journey. It's not what the other person needs. Somebody can come and say, oh, I got a job. It's going to pay me 20 times more. But maybe that's not a fit for you because right now, that's not what you're looking for. You would rather take a pay cut and get more time because maybe my kids are young and I decided for the first 5 years, I want to spend more time. Like one of the things I did earlier in my career was decided I was going to do exclusive breastfeeding. And I remember people would get jobs or people would approach me for jobs and I'm like, no, I don't want to work there. They're going to pay you. I'm like, no, but the work culture doesn't fit what I'm looking for now. I'm looking for a work culture that's very, very friendly to career women that are childbearing. I want a work culture I can take, if I want to take maternity leave, if I need to take a day off for the kids, if I want to work remotely. And that is what for me was more important. So for a long time, I knew I was underpaid, but the money was not the issue. I wasn't looking, that was not the key criteria. The criteria was the culture of the place was important. It had to support me as a working woman that was in that childbearing age. So if you understand, because I understood that need, I didn't worry. So I would have people tell me they're earning, if you had come with me to this job or I interviewed you didn't want to take my job, you rejected the offer, I was going to pay you 3 times, 4 times more, but it didn't work out. But then, of course, there was another phase, and I told myself, okay, at this phase, we've gotten this. This is what I'm trying to get. And so that's what I would say. Assess it through the eyes of what do you really need in that on your journey at that time, and use that. Don't use other people's benchmark.
No. I really this for me is hitting home because it's not being controversial, but sometimes I sit back and I say, I don't know if the men get this, that when we are considering the next career, we're not just thinking of what will be good on my CV. We're not just looking at what will give me visibility or this. We're looking at the children. We're looking at them. We're looking at our family before we make those decisions of what to apply.
You have different rules you're playing. So you're trying to trade off. And like I always say, it's not like you're perfect, but you're looking at what is important in your life and what do you need to feed, those things that are important. And you want that career journey to align with it. So it could mean making decisions to other people that doesn't look right, but it sits well with you because that's what you need. And you'll be in your happy place.
Absolutely. Because when I was in the lab as a scientist, I was talking with you before, then I had to be there almost 20 hours, Saturdays. My son, even though I did the whole breastfeeding and all, he called daddy first. I think most children do, but his dad was his favorite person then, and that was really for me. So, but when I now did a stock, I took stock. I was like, okay, this job gives me visibility. Pay was not that well. Skills, yes. I'm learning, like all those things you've mentioned. Then when I wanted to step out of that environment, I started looking. Something must give. You have to lose something. And for me, I that work-life balance, the new role I went into, work-life balance was fantastic. I could work from home. Access was good. Access to government, everything. Maternity leave was good. Learning skills, everything. Then when I started doing the job, I said, oh, now I know what has given. It was visibility that I gave up. Before I was publishing, going to this, that visibility was what I sacrificed. And that was how this YouTube channel was born, because I don't know how to be at a place where I'm not showing up, I'm not giving. Oh my God, it's like, why am I gathering all this? Why is there money? And like, and I said, oh yes, something was give right now. I know what has given for this, but now my son, if you ask him, who is your favorite person in the world? The answer, I asked him 3 times, and the answer,
that's priceless.
That's priceless. That's priceless.
That's priceless because I always used to tease to myself that the first 14 years I want to invest the best I can in the kids because they're very young. But once they become teenagers, a little bit more independent. But if you've invested the core values at that young age, I think they can ride.
That's priceless for me. So even as I'm here now, if I call them, so I knew what I wanted to step back and achieve. Because some things that happen when I look at like some people who are maybe high achieving, I'm like, okay, I like studying their paths. I'll say, okay, maybe if I can avoid this mistake, or if I can avoid this. So I really love learning from people, because if that mistake has been documented, Chidima does not want to make the mistake.
A mentor of mine told me that he used to always tease that one of the reasons you read or acquire knowledge, we don't have to make the same mistake twice. If someone has made the same, just learn from their mistake. Why do you want to make yours? They already made it, so you learn from them.
Yes, just learn from them. So for me, LinkedIn, oh my goodness, like I know when you got this position, I don't know if you could go back to, I know many people sent you congratulations.
I don't know,
1 million.
I had to switch off my phone by day 3. The
Yeah.
phone did not stop ringing.
Oh my
It
God.
rang until the battery would go. It was just, and that's how you knew, wow, I know this amount of people. People were texting and calling. By day 2, I hadn't slept well. My husband said, we're switching off this phone. It's not going to work. Because people were calling from different times. And because of the nature of, how I've worked, people call me from Australia, but the time zone was the middle of the night. I just saw something. Is that true? Jane, is that you? Then somebody would call from Ghana, all the way from the Middle East. And the phone was ringing non-stop. So we switched it off. I switched it off for, I think, 3 days.
Wow.
So to allow, but of course, then people went to social media. Then the social media posts were just blasting out. But I understand. I am really humbled because I think there's a lot of goodwill.
Yes.
And I don't take it for granted because I think it's just people really expressing, in many ways, maybe that's why we do it. I always tell myself that I do this for the younger gen, but you do it so that, if nothing more, I was discussing with someone the other day because they were asking me the question, why did you take this job? I think maybe in simple terms, we want to attract people like us into this part of the sector. Yeah. So they know that it can be done. But if someone like you did it, then they'll be like, oh, then if you did it, then we can do it. And that's how you attract people to a sector.
Absolutely. I think so. If I was trying to, if you scroll down to the very first message I ever sent you, I said congratulations. Then I said something, please ma, don't stop showing up. That was my only request.
A lot of people worry, okay, now you're going to be in government.
Yeah.
Can you
still do the
I think
teaching?
at the end of the day, some things are called to you, so you find a way. Because I tell, even my team now, I currently tell them, because there's something we do, like every month I try to go to a school and we share, like a secondary school. Yes, we share. So it's always like after a while, I'll be like, oh, we haven't gone to school. Book me for a school on Friday. We're going to school. And they always like, where do you get the energy? I said, no. That's what gives me the energy. That's what you don't realize. This drains the energy. That's where I get re-energized. When I sit with those kids, the curious kids that want to know more, I am even more energized. So you have to figure out what gives you energy and you have to find a way to feed it back to your job. I said, that's where I go and I see hope. I see people that are so determined to do something great and you want to inspire them more. Wow. That's where I get the energy to come and do the hard part of the work.
Wow. Oh my God. Like I'm just writing, I need to sit with myself and do a lot of thinking, a lot of, I
think it's also self-awareness to know what actually works for you. Because once I realize this is what gives me energy. Then I protect it. Because I know when I came, people were like, maybe after a while, she'll be tired of doing it. I've done it 2 years straight down. Like now they know that it's a job. They're like, oh, we've run out of schools in Abuja. They go and look for schools. Like wherever we go to a state, I'm like, okay, we're going to the state. Can you get me a school? Yeah, find a rural school, whatever. We'll make it work.
I noticed when you went to Nsukka for the reunion, I noticed that from the public lecture, because I streamed online. I noticed you went to a school
every time. So sometimes like, oh, we cannot fit it into the calendar. I'm like, you try. You even though the school's writing an exam. Okay, we just show up there, we say hi and we go. But because you realize that for you, it's something that creates energy, you would feed it.
Sometimes we feel we know someone, but I don't think I didn't understand this part of why. Because I was like, why is she going to school from it?
Oh, I do that a lot. Wow. And sometimes I do it and people are not even some parts of that I don't make it obvious because it's like your own little private space. It's something you protect. And that's a space I protect because that is where I get my energy. And that's where people see me in a different form. And most people don't see that part. Yes. A lot of people see the professional part. You don't. It's when you probably meet those kids. They're like the way the relationship they would have with you is slightly more different with the relationship.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the proper conversation. I just see the out.
Most times we try now. I don't think we've ever showed. We don't. But it's really detailed and it's really fun. We even actually play. So there's a play part of it.
Wow, I'll
But
like
we
to
do
go.
enjoy it.
I would like to see one of
The kids love it. In short, in Sukawan, why I did it was that they actually came for a lecture I did 2 years or a year before.
Wow.
And after the lecture, they all met me there. We had a good chat. I remember then the team kept telling me, we have to leave, man. We have to fly. I'm like, no, these are very... And people find it weird because they're like, these are really very important people. Because for lots of time, we've prioritized them against some other... And people are like, why would she prioritize these kids? Because I know that is Jane 30, 40 years ago. That is the future. And if you really give them the right platform, you've given them what is priceless. Mindset. That is the priceless gift you can. That is a very powerful tool to give people the right mindset. Because for years and years, when they don't see you, they don't know you, that is what keeps them thriving. So it was, for me, it's so important to invest in them. So yes, I do that intentionally. So that was the second time. So when we met, some of the things we discussed, we caught up one-on-one. Everybody tell me what they're doing, where they are, compared to the last time we were. And you'll be shocked. I did the same thing when I went to Owerri. But even though they were writing exams, so I couldn't really meet with them. And sometimes the teachers will be like, oh, why is she spending more time with the kids? But those are really the people I came for.
Wow.
So yes, it's interesting.
It's not in the cards, but did someone do this for you when you were young that made you know how important it was too?
I think that's one of the things I lived on. That's why it's important. So if I go back to my childhood, the moments of the childhood I really cherish. The moments, because remember I was coming from a very underprivileged background.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the kind of models maybe I thought I was aspiring to.
Yeah.
But I used to have snippets in time where I would be exposed to something like this. And those stories, that engagement will keep me for years. All I will be thinking was that when she came and this is what she said, and when he came. And I felt this was the best gift I could give to the young Jane, because giving me resources, they didn't need to, and nobody did, and it wasn't required. But what you gave me was more priceless, because even years after all I used to do was just recount those stories. Recount the stories they told us, how they did it. And those kept me. So even in the bleakest of moments where everybody around you will be feeding you information that is opposed to what you are thinking. But that lady said, she did this and she did that. She said the education was so important that maybe I could try it. And that's what kept me.
Wow.
So it was very important to me to do the same.
Thank you. Okay. Our fourth section, founding and building initiatives. This is first of all for me, finder mindset inside and outside the office. So you founded and supported initiatives focused on women and careers. What did building something from scratch teach you that corporate success does not teach others?
Okay, one of the, sometimes you learn in very different circumstances. So I remember the first time I ventured formally into entrepreneurship, which is what I told you. I set up a maternity retail chain. The skill set I learned from that, when I came back to the corporate world, it became a superpower. And for a long time, I was scared to do it. Because I thought, I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't want anything to do with it. It's not for me. Just a career professional. But then I did an MBA. And in doing the MBA, there was a course called Entrepreneurship Finance, but you had to make a case to actually sign up for the course. They don't just take anybody. And it got me curious. I'm like, when do you have to start making a case? Okay, then I'm more interested. And I remember they wrote me and explained to me that they are very reluctant to sign me up. Because I was married with kids and I was traveling up and down. And they said, you can't miss the classes. They were like all the rules in the world. And I wrote back, I made a case, like, I will do everything on this list. I'm going to sign up. They had to make me confirm. Like, I really made a strong case. So first of all, it was a challenge that drew me into that. But then I did that and I remembered that entrepreneurship is almost like a science. It's not. So I wrote a thesis on it, nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
You can be born an entrepreneur, but you can make yourself one. It doesn't always mean that it's only a natural trait. You can actually work at the skills to become one. And when I finished the master's, I decided to venture into entrepreneurship. And that's when I started the maternity retail. And what I learned is that being in a professional environment, I think I've been very protected, and I saw a certain skill set, and I thought this is all I needed.
Yeah.
Now, when I became an entrepreneur, it's like everything was torn apart and you built from scratch. It was a painful process, but it was fulfilling.
Wow.
There's something about building that makes it fulfilling, because you saw how nothing existed. It was just an idea. Now, it's not just an idea. We're recruiting people, we're giving jobs, we're making money, we're building a brand, we're creating impact.
Wow.
I think that became fulfilling, but it was very hard. Then one of the things I loved about it was, okay, I was now learning new skills I'd never even thought. At some point I was teasing people that it's so hard to be a founder. Because in the early stage, you are HR, then you are the admin administrative, then you're the call center person, but then you're the chief and operations. You're having different roles, and you have to learn the skills. And you can't tell yourself, oh, I did never trained in project management, so I don't. You're like, where do we get the skills? Like, what do I need to do to acquire them? What do I have to read, study, learn? Who should I talk to?
Wow.
And you take that same process and you bring it back to the workforce. It was a superpower. So when I came back to the workforce, the way I approached my work was different. I wouldn't say reckless, but with more confidence and clarity.
Wow.
So one of the things that was easy to be thrown away was the office politics. So in the normal professional career, people are so protectionist. So you want to protect your promotion, you want to protect what people say. You don't want to be out of the line. It's always good to be safe, so everybody likes you. But the only question I used to ask myself when I hit the hard wall or a roadblock was, if this was your company, what would you do? Sincerely. And I would make that call. So with that, I had clarity, because after running a company, your intentions for the company to succeed, to do well, you make very hard decisions. You take hard calls. So when you bring it back, I didn't shy away. I was like, I would tell my boss it with clarity, say, this is why I took that call. If this is my company, I wouldn't do what you're doing. I wouldn't. It's okay, I don't know your perspective, but if this was my company, I wouldn't do that, and this is why I wouldn't do it. So it puts some more clarity into doing the work. So coming with that, I think people respected it. People like people that are courageous. So I think my bosses started taking note, because I wasn't now afraid to tell you. I wasn't afraid of, she won't get promoted. I'm like, promotion for me. If I don't get it, I can go get it. You shouldn't get a salary increase, or then people are not going to like you. Actually, people respected you. Then they were forced to like you. And when tough things, tough situation, they were like, oh no, we think, when you want to tell you that, we think it's only Jane that can do that. Let's go get Jane. I'm like, did they say that? Like, yeah, they said it has to be you. Like, it has to be you. I said, wow, that is interesting. So I think that's one of the things I have learned with building, is that in building, you are exposing yourself to new skill set. That experience, I find it fulfilling, but it's very challenging, because you're challenging yourself in weird ways. If you think about it, you have to start a maternity retail. You're not even into fashion, first of all. So I was studying color wheel like a science. Oh my God. Like what colors go, what fabrics go. I was studying that as a science. Textures, it was studied like a science. I didn't even have the language. Seams and hems. So I had to even learn that.
Wow.
So I had to go for a 3-month crash course on fashion design. So it's interesting. I think you kind of expose yourself to a new world, and you challenge yourself.
Talk about collecting. I would say, if I'm to define you, you've shattered everything called career confinement or niche. You've broken it.
Taking the traditional career path.
Yes. You've just broken that box, gone where you want to go, come back to the box, do what you want to do. I think that it's not I don't know if to say fluidity, but you've done it so gracefully, with ease, and just being authentic to yourself. I don't think you ever think and say, oh, what will people think if I go and do this? No.
Because people were free to take, but people like, what is she doing now? She says she's doing, what does that go to? She's an engineer. And I'm like, okay, I'm solving problems. There's a gap in the market. I think I can solve it. Wow. I would use my engineering skills and also help solve it. So, but I think, I also believe there are no mistakes, because I feel those skill sets, those tools have also helped me in my journey. So right now, I know I've been in a situation, people are like, but you have no clue of this. I said, okay, I'll just treat it like the startup. We build from scratch.
Wow.
Yes, we have no clue. We accept. We need to find people that have some competence in it. We need to find people we can learn from, like mentors. And we need to ask the basic question, what are we trying to achieve? And if you use that same framework, you find at the end of the day, and that's why people, you see them move from one sector to the other.
To the other.
Ultimately, if you're trying to solve a problem, I think it changes the way you view something. You will not be bogged down on the fact that I have no clue. You'll be bogged down with the fact that how do we acquire what is required to solve the problem?
Wow. This is such an encouragement to you. Building teams that people trust. When you enter a new, let's say, leadership environment, how do you build credibility fast?
So different ways to build credibility, I must say. A great way is competence.
Competence.
There's always be. So if you have competence in something, people listen to you. So I come to Road and tell you, oh, I've spent 20 years in tech. If I start talking tech, you listen, isn't it? Putting that out there, that data out there is to make you, to build that confidence. Like, okay, she's been doing it for 20 years. She must know what she's talking about. But also, I've also found out that also learning to frame it from the point of view of trying to solve for something is a great way to connect with people.
Yeah.
Just the fact that I want to solve a problem for you, your guards will be down, isn't it? You won't. If I come, I can argue with you all out for ages about research, but once I say, oh, research, that's interesting. How do you guys go about like really putting your research work in public sector? Is that a challenge? Okay, is that something maybe I could work with you and look at? I do have access. Once you come with the framework of how can I solve, how can I support, and I do that a lot with my teams to build team, and they will notice that I always ask you, how can I help you? How can I support you? Because everybody is open to somebody that wants to be part of the solution.
Wow.
People are reluctant if you just want to, increase the intensity of the problem or, create conflict. People are more open if you are, really interested in helping them solve or be part of the solution. So I always want to go from that viewpoint to say, what can I do that could make it better? Where are the gaps? Where are the challenges? What's one thing that's keeping you awake at night? What's one thing that is making it difficult for you? Because if people come from that viewpoint, of course your guards will be down. You'll be like, hey, she at least wants to look into how she can work with me or support me or be part of the solution. So that's how I have, one of the ways I have used. Of course, there are other ways empathy as well. Because once you put yourself in people's shoes, it's easier to tell someone, hey, you've been writing this, you've been publishing these papers, we still find errors, But it's different if you put themselves in their shoes and say, hey, what do you think could have been the challenge? Why did you? Then person will be things like, I have ADHD, so I'm always a last minute person. It makes it difficult to edit. Then if you come with the fact that, okay, why don't we get you an editor? Would that help? So what you could do your best, which is to write. We just get somebody else, 2 other editors to look at it with another eye. Maybe that could help you just focus on writing. Then you're trying to help someone. That's because you put yourself in their shoes, as opposed to just quickly judging. You're trying to understand their viewpoint. And it's very important even for women, because I know most times women don't want to look vulnerable at work. So your boss is always like, she's always coming late for meetings and all that. But what nobody has really thought about, Jane has a 3-month-old son. And she probably has spent most of her nights breastfeeding. So putting a meeting at 8 o'clock means she has to leave the house at 6 a.m. And maybe that is not a very practical time for someone that woke up 3 times that night breastfeeding. Maybe if the meeting was at 9, it would be better, because she can. So it's only when you put yourself in Jane's shoes to understand. So how is the baby? How is it going? And she can share and say things like, wow, this is breastfeeding time. Most nights I'm awake and it's difficult. I don't know how you guys do it. 8 o'clock meetings don't work for me. Maybe could we make it 9? 9 would be better. I would have been able to catch your one.
Mine is 9:30 now, because I need to do school drop-offs.
Exactly, or school drop-offs. So, and I think it's that empathy at the workplace would also allow women to show up like who they are. Because I always say to people, there are a couple of the parts of you, even though people are judging you for it, you can't change. In a marriage, at least naturally, it's only a woman that can give birth. If the men start giving birth, maybe this conversation will be different. But it's only a woman that can give birth. So just by nature, those babies will cling to you for almost the first 5 years of their life.
Yeah.
You become their source. It is tougher then to dissociate from them.
Yeah.
You know, your baby is in the hospital. So even though he's in the hospital, the truth is that you have to be there. Because to manage the pain, the process, they need a sort of comfort.
Yeah.
And his mom.
Yeah.
And that's why mom, even though she's not sick, she has to be in the hospital to give him that source of comfort, or maybe to breastfeed or whatever. But it just means that the role that you play starts impacting. And if people are in your shoes, they start to understand why. It's not that Jane is no longer smart or she's no longer professional. Let's accommodate that in this phase, we have to give her a little bit of room.
Wow, thank you so much. In fact, this leads directly into the next segment, women walk and the weight we carry.
Okay.
The weight that nobody claps for. You know, when we were talking yesterday,
you don't get an award. Nobody gives an award for being a mother.
Nobody gives you an award.
Nobody gives an award that you are now, you know, I don't think for getting married, I don't think you get any award, you know. So I think it's also the social construct has created in a way that for a long time, we have made it look so natural that we feel you should not complain. It's like when women give birth, people feel like you've seen so many great births. You don't know that process of giving birth is an intense, complicated process until something goes wrong. And it's only when men sit in the labor room, then they start to respect the whole process. Like, this woman, you know, to hit that kind of pain, that pain threshold. And you still see her doing this. No. I would be dead if it was me. You know, so it's
yeah. So I wanted to thank you. So what hidden responsibilities do high achieving women carry that the world rarely counts, especially leadership, motherhood, community, visibility? I think we've spoken about it.
Because there's a lot of the roles you have to play. But something I've also realized, I've been talking a lot, is the fact is what that women go through a lot of transition that are disruptive. But it's been so naturalized, nobody speaks about it. So when a woman moves from being single to being married, that's a transition. It's a lot. People don't know. It only hits you when, I remember when I got married and we had to go on honeymoon, then I realized that the name you are now bearing is not the name on the passport.
Yeah.
And the embassy is worried. So they needed a court affidavit to say that Kechi Amadi is still Jane Egerton-Idehen. And we needed to prove it with a wedding certificate. And you needed that court affidavit to say that your name used to be this way, but now it's this way. And then you realize that it's not just for the passport. It goes all the way to now your birth certificate.
Yes.
You know, to your the document you used to graduate, you know, like your certificate. All those things, because the names are no longer the same. And everybody's like, okay, you know, you have to prove to us that that person is this person. That's a lot of paperwork. You know, you have to now advertise in the newspaper, some name change, you know. The men don't do that.
No, they don't.
The man gets married and the next day, nothing happens to his name.
Nothing happens.
You know, he doesn't show up to work and say, hey, I'm no longer, I'm married. I'm now Jane Egerton-Idehen.
No.
Now, for a long time, people will be, even in the workplace, it took a while because they're still sending emails with my old email. And I'm still signing my email with my new name. And people are like, who is this person? Is somebody impersonating her? Oh, no, she got married, so the name has changed. You know, so that's a lot of transition to deal with. And I think we do it so easy that we make it look easy. It is not easy.
It took me like 3 years to consciously not. So someone will be calling Chidema Kolondri. I don't know who you're talking to. I'm just walking. Then you have to say Chidema Liva because that's my. I'm like, oh, you're talking. It took me 3 years.
You don't want it just because, changing the name doesn't change the Chidema.
I've been answering it for 20, how many years?
Yes.
It took me a long time to start answering Chidema Okolo. I don't know who you're talking.
So that transition happens. Then think about it. When it happens, we are now most times thrust into this new transition of now motherhood. And in most cases, it seems almost at the time the women are in the parts of the career when it's about to take off. So you're about to get into management, or when it's aggressively growing, then you start having kids. And having kids means motherhood. It means maternity leaves. It means you're not showing up the way you would have loved to show up in some cases. And that you have to manage all that. And most women, because if you define your identity by that, you start to feel guilty.
Yeah.
You start to tell yourself, oh, this is not the Jane I used to know. And people used to tell you, and you would then take that feedback and like, yeah, that's true. No. That is just a role going through a transition. It doesn't change your identity. It doesn't change the smart, intelligent, funny, brilliant Chidima. It just means that Chidima has now had a baby and is giving time to the baby, giving time to maneuver the whole new marriage life and working together with someone on so many things, from finances to spiritual life to career. We are now coordinating it together, because think about it. Before that, Chidima was coordinating it alone. Now she has to sync it up with somebody and coordinate and plan likewise together. That's a lot of transition. We make it look effort, and that creates a lot of disruptions. So one of the things I would say to women is really understand your identity and know that these are roles. And like roles, they change. They will keep changing. But that is not the you. Because once you identify as those roles, you struggle. You start judging yourself. You put that, the whole weight is on you. And it is tough. And I say this also so others will know, not just for women, so the husbands will understand. That, your wife has gone through a phase. Not because you're like, oh, but my mother had 8 kids. Yes, your mother had 8 kids at the time where there was so much support. Your wife is having these children in an environment maybe she doesn't even have the support. There's no family member, there's nothing. So she's dealing with it alone and managing that with the career, with all the expectations you have. So maybe she needs support, and you are the support. Stop thinking the support is in her. You are going to be the support she needs. So sometimes we need to have these conversations. I will share one example. So when I transitioned into management, I had to leave the country we lived in and go and live in another country. So I moved with my kids. But I knew one part that was having a challenge was the marriage, because my husband is in another country, I'm in another country. So in trying to be the superwoman, I would travel every weekend. I would hop on a plane. After work on Friday, I used to take a flight that was, 5:30 or 6 o'clock flight. I'll fly from Ghana to Lagos. But when you get to Lagos, you have to take your bag for a checkout, take your bag, pick your bag, then take a taxi home. And I'll get home at 11 p.m. So tired because I've had an intense week. Sometimes I've even flown to other countries within the week. So I literally crash out till like Sunday. So I remember one day my husband's like, why are we doing this? Like, you actually just come here to rest. We don't even spend any quality time. So why are you stressing yourself? I said, but I want to be here. I want to show that. He said, no. You have to understand it's important that you also be in a good state. So why don't you stay there and I rather be the one? Because you spend the whole week managing the kids, the career, everything. So why don't you just stay in Ghana? Let me be the one to fly. I spend the whole week living here alone. So I'll fly. So he started flying. But even though when he started flying, just to tell you that how you have to understand how to now, you need support, because the roles are not your identity. I was thinking to myself, oh, a good woman must be cooking, clean. Look at me, my husband comes, I'm still letting the cook. So I'm like, you're not cooking, I'm cooking. So my husband lands on Friday, then I cook Friday, Saturday. And one day he called me like, why are you cooking? I want to make that more. It's like, you should know me by now, that is not important. I rather spend 3 hours talking to you. We're just having a good time. Than waiting for this moi you have been trying to prepare for. I don't want that. We can go and eat in a restaurant. That is not important. So that's why sometimes in marriages, it's good to understand each partner. What is important. And once we identified what was important, that our relationship was important. And some of these roles we can outsource. We can delegate. They're not what defined the marriage. They are roles. Because they are roles, we could outsource some of them. Actually, we made our union stronger. So what we then used to do is that before my husband comes every Friday, I actually book a getaway hotel somewhere. So we will go out. Ideas. So just the two of us, Friday, Saturday. The kids will join us on Saturday. The nanny then brings the kids. But we spend the whole Friday into Saturday alone, catching up, just having that time together, which is what was important to us, and not who cooked the food or who cleaned the house, because now it was a hotel, so somebody was cleaning it. The food, you just order it. I would really spend that quiet time together. So by the time the kids come on Saturday, then they join in, and as a family unit, we then spend it into Sunday until my husband flies out on Monday. That's what we started doing.
Wow.
But that's really understanding what's important in the union. But maybe for some person, you know, you making the food is important.
That's their love language.
Then that's your love. So you have to understand what is your own love language, what is important. And I think when I started understanding that, because so it doesn't mean I knew it all. I realized, okay, why am I expending my energy? What's not important to this marriage? You know, that role being domesticated is not important.
That act of service was not it for him. It was
so if it's not important, then don't invest in it. Invest in what is important. Really making sure by the time my husband is here, we had a good place, had great ideas what we're going to do, how we're going to spend that weekend together, not being disturbed. So it even became a thing at work. They knew that even if it's falling apart, you're not calling me. You're calling this person, that person. Don't call.
Disturb.
Because I'm going to... So it became a thing of weekends were the family. Weekends were for the family. So weekends, I'm not trying to do the work. I'm going to spend the weekend with the family. All the time for my kids, for my husband, so we can catch up. So I think that's one of the ways I have coped in terms of going through that. But I think it's a good conversation we should be having because, like I said, I was trying to solve it from what I've been taught until I found out the person I'm in union with is saying we don't have to define it by what you've been taught. Let's define it with what works for us. Yes, the superwoman wants to fly and show that you're there coordinating everything. No. That's why you have a husband. Let's do it together. Don't fly. I would fly. This domesticated work is not a priority for me. So let's outsource it. Let's focus on what's priority for the union.
This outsourcing, I'm a champion of outsourcing. If it does not, for me, quality time with the children, I can't outsource that. That is me. So, but every other thing, just take away my pain. I'm outsourcing everything.
I too. Quality time for me is a priority because it's also the way we redefine the core values with them. Let them see what it is that is important to our family unit, our core principles. Because kids, I think they learn a lot by seeing and less more from what you say. You know, is observing and seeing how you are managing things. That's how they're taking in information. So you really have to spend the time. That's how they see.
They see it. Wow. Thank you so much. I think this is mainly for me. It's mainly for me. And then when it's published, others can listen. But I think this journey coming here was really, really for me. There's a question here for women in STEM, a reality check for us. From your experience in engineering spaces and even aerospace, defense, engineering, technology, because you're also on lots of startups and tech and all that. So what's the most common silent barrier women face and what actually works to break it?
So I think it's kind of if I look at my, almost 2.5 decades. So earlier on, we were complaining about the pipeline. There were no women in the pipeline. So no women were studying science. Studying STEM. And that's because of sometimes cultural, environmental factors. The fact that people tell them it's too hard, it's too difficult, it's for men, it's expensive. Those are just nuanced barriers. It was that. But then when I got into the workforce, I started finding out that women were dropping.
Dropping.
As I climbed up, less women, because most of the women I knew, they wanted to go do something, leave the workforce, just be a full-time mom. Now, it's okay if you did it voluntarily. But I think it was sad when I saw that they were almost being forced into it. It's not what they would have done voluntarily. And in those type of situations, I think it's really sad to see it. Then we realized that we didn't just have a pipeline program, we were leaking talent. And we were leaking talent, started making us focus on some of the challenges, which is the bias. Now, one of the things I realized is that, especially STEM, I don't think in the original way the workforce was created, it was created with women in mind. So if you go to the 1800s, early 1920s, before the first industrial revolution, before the industrialization stage, it was really more men go and work. Women will be at home, take care of the kids, and they will teach or clean, do the domesticated. At best, they'll be a nurse.
Midwife.
It's only after the Second World War, a lot of these men had gone out for war. And there were really gaps. Women were not filling those gaps. Women got into the workforce. But because it was not built with women in mind, it wasn't friendly to the uniqueness of being a woman in the workforce. A quick example is like what I told you about how we network. We want to go to a club in the middle of the night and drink alcohol. Like, this is, for a woman in childbearing age, that is weird.
Possible.
First of all, she doesn't want to be drinking alcohol if she's breastfeeding. Neither does she want to be out in a bar at 11 p.m. or 1 a.m. Because she probably needs to put the kids to bed or read them or do the homework. She has so many things that's keeping her awake. She doesn't want to be at that bar.
Yeah.
Even in the way we define success, performance success in the workforce, aggressive, being blunt, all those things were really important. And most women were not forced to really profile themselves in that manner. Coming with empathy or showing your nurturing instincts were told to be, they're vulnerable or define you as weak. So, and it's all because the criteria we have used to access performance, growth, was opposed to how somehow women will show up naturally. So I think those things started becoming barriers.
Wow.
And there was so much barrier that even women wouldn't talk about. I know women wouldn't talk about family or personal lives in the workforce because they didn't want to be seen as used to judge them. Though people say, show up as your authentic self. But if I show up and tell you, my son is 3, he's a toddler now, so all we are doing is toilet training, all of it, you were like, whoop. Because I remember my first career, the first time I got into management. So I remember one of the first big official trips I was going to do. I was taking some senior members of my client to a country. Actually, we were going to Singapore.
Okay.
Then my nanny resigned. And that was crazy.
Yeah, this was in the book. I saw this in the book.
And I tried to figure it out. I'm calling everybody. I remember talking to all my colleagues. Everybody thought it was a weird problem because I don't know. I've never been in that situation. My wife is always there. I don't know. I never thought about it. And they're right, because in most cases, it's men that will do that type of role. And their wives will always be there to pick up this gap. And now I'm the one that's doing that role. And they don't want to pick up that gap for me. The only person that thought differently was another senior lady, the executive. She told me, do you know what? Why don't you bring the kids to stay with me? And I thought about it. The lovely lady, she was Indian. I'm like, oh my God, my kids, this 1 week of trying to prep them. Like, you might not eat the normal, I was thinking about because they haven't really known, it might be a tough one. So I ended up doing what most women do. I declined going for the trip. I sent my team to the consultant. Everybody went. Of course, everybody kept asking, where is Jane? She made this all happen. I dialed in remotely and introduced the session. I explained to them I couldn't be there. I rather stayed. But it made me start thinking about these unique challenges women have. And I start to see those were the barriers. So maybe in my case, I was slightly in a different situation because I do have a supportive partner. So my husband didn't see that as a horrible mother in me, or why did you even have to think about it when traveling and your kids? He understood what it took us to get there and why that trip was important. And he was willing to work with me to find a solution. In some cases, it will cost that lady her marriage because they were like, oh no, all you care about is your career. You don't care about us. And because nobody's thinking about what does she need?
What does she want?
What does she want? What would help her be more fulfilled? There might be more things in life her purpose, her calling deserves. And motherhood is one of them, but it's not the only. Doesn't mean that motherhood is not important. It just means it's not the only thing about her. So these are unique challenges women face, and these started becoming barriers, especially in STEM, because for a long time STEM had been male dominated. So think about it. We want you to show up in that lab 24/7. We never considered for a woman 24/7 will be tough if she's married and has kids. 24/7 will make sense if she's single. 24/7 for a man, he could wing it because he's got a wife at home. But 24/7 for the woman will be very tough, So those started, I started identifying those things as the barriers and started speaking up about it, because I felt, even though I felt it was a bit lonely, I wrote a whole article about being lonely at top because people didn't want to speak about it because it was used to judge them. I thought, you know what? It's like someone identified your weakness, but you need them to see your viewpoint. Why, if it was the reverse, if it was only men that could bear kids in a marriage, in the workforce, we would think, are we going to think differently about how we accommodate them?
Yeah.
Are we going to consider, oh, maybe it's not a bad idea after all to have a daycare, so that we have women stop pumping breast milk in toilets because there is no facility to accommodate for nursing women.
Yeah.
But we want them to show up to work 2 months or 3, sometimes 2 weeks in the US, 2 weeks after giving birth. You're still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to all that breast milk when it's all engorged and painful? Because that's food for the baby. So maybe we start to show some empathy and accommodate. Okay, can we build systems that will accommodate that? Because that's also the time in the career when they're about to take off.
Yeah.
Can we also decide that the way we assess performance is not who shows up at 8 a.m., but who delivers? Because she can't show up at 8 a.m. if she was breastfeeding all the night or toilet training. Maybe if we have flexible work, it would allow her to show up and deliver performance as opposed to tying it to the time she showed up. So I think those conversations we started having, but more importantly was for me to show up at the table. And that's why I really fought hard. Because I thought it was easier to have the conversation if you were at the table, than people hear directly from you. Because I went to a school in Ghana. I was giving a speech, and halfway before my presentation, I was kind of pressed. I said I had to use the washroom. And they told me there was no female washroom in that whole vast. So in the whole lecture area, it was only male. Female washrooms were in the hostels. So one of the lecturers, of course, offered that I use his own private. But I wasn't curious. I'm like, tell me, why is this? They said, oh, by the way, this is an engineering institute. And by 50 years ago when it was done, it was predominantly male. Even at that time, women were only about 10% in that institute. And they said, because when it was created, it was predominantly male. Facilities were done for male folks. So nobody considered women. Then I asked the simple question. So in the student union or are there any women? Oh, no, the woman is only the secretary. No, like, sitting in the roles that are actually making powerful decisions. Or there's no women. So I stood up there and said, you know what, before I give my presentation, I want to know women that are willing to vie for a role in this student. And I didn't stop until a couple of them stood up. And I said, okay, I won't also start until I see men that have access. So you have positional authority. So you're either sitting in the leadership, you have access to that are willing to support this woman as they go and vie. And I insisted until some of the men, I said, okay, there we go, we formed the team. The next time I want to hear that this women vie, I'd like to see 1 or 2 of them on. Because that's the only way you can solve it, because then they can explain. Because the reason everybody was shocked, because they never thought about it, that, oh, shoot, we don't have any female bathrooms in the entire lecture area. Because nobody saw that as a problem, because in the leadership, there's nobody there talking about it. So representation is important. And that's why you see some of us women want to sit at the table, because how can you have that conversation if you're not there? I can only have the conversation when I'm there and I'll be like, no, we should not assess that lady like that. How could you access her just because she said she's engaged, about to get married? That becomes the criteria for giving her the job. It has nothing to do with the job. The job is the skill set. Her getting married is her private life. Do you assess a man whether he's getting married or going to have a wedding? Do we use that as a criteria to give him the job? Like, oh, he said he's getting married next month. Oh, that's going to be a problem. No, you don't. But you're planning out the whole woman's life in a boardroom just because she told you she was going to get married in a couple of months. So those conversations could be had because you are in the room, and it was so important for me to have women in those rooms.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Wow. Have you learned to set boundaries without shrinking your ambition and without carrying guilt?
It's the process. I'll put it like so. It's a learning process. Learning to set boundaries, of course, you cannot survive if you don't serve. Because I always say, I'm not a superwoman. Some things I have to create boundaries. Some things, I think it was the other day we were talking about WhatsApp group. You can't be in every WhatsApp group chatting. Then I will not have time to write the book and show up here and do my job. So you need to set boundaries. But I think if you set boundaries from a place of understanding why, I think you show more love in the way you be more kinder in the way you also communicate it. So I won't be very arrogant, like, no, I don't chat in WhatsApp group, but I'll be a little bit more kinder to explain why I'm a limited resource. I'm a human being that has 24 hours, limited, and I have to prioritize, and some things end up giving. and the things that are not high ranking in the priority list, we have to set the boundaries out. What at this time is more important and what is not. But we will be kinder in the approach, in the way we communicate it and the way we show up. So for me, I think that's really more important, because if you can communicate it in a kinder manner, I don't think setting boundaries is the wrong thing. It's actually very helpful. It's really very helpful in the way we show up and become productive, because it's us trying to be the superwoman. And sometimes you see women break down, or you become so riddled with guilt because you promise them you're going to be here, and you promise them you do this, and you promise them. But the truth is that if it's a weekend and it's a family time, I'm so sorry, I need to spend the time with my daughter, because Monday to Friday I've always showed up late and she didn't have enough quality time. Because by the time I showed up, she was going to bed. We didn't catch up on all the things, interesting things she wanted to tell me that happened in her life the week. So weekend is her time, and I wouldn't trade it with someone else. But if you're willing, I used to do that. I would say, we can do it on a weekday. On a weekday, I'll give you that time. But on a weekend, I wouldn't, because it is really anchored for the family. But because you're kind in the way you communicate, people don't see it as an arrogant ask. She's saying, no, she can only have the meetings on the weekday. No.
So people will still be arrogant, because I know some people who they feel entitled to your time, yours. And for me, I feel that no matter how I even say it anyway, he would even so.
We have to say, and people know that sometime I will not pick calls at a certain time, and I don't pick calls at that time not because I don't want to or you're not important. Because the priority for that time is this, and because that is the priority, it will be unfair. And that's why I would rather propose. You know what? Feel free to come in between this time and we would have that conversation. But right now, this is really important what I'm doing. So those boundaries actually will allow you to navigate and be more efficient in the use of your resources. Because the resources are limited. Your time is limited. The energy you put at something is limited. So things have to be traded.
There will be trade-offs. Thank you so much. For anyone listening, trying to understand how to, set boundaries, what the key here is be clear, but be kind in the way you communicate it. But you need to be clear that these boundaries need to be there. And they are not up for negotiation, but you need to be kind in the way you communicate it. Thank you so much. The seventh section is immigration. Identity shifts across countries. So you've lived and worked across countries. We were discussing it before the podcast, including Ireland, Europe, Middle East, and at different points. And what did relocating teach you about identity, confidence, and rebuilding community from scratch?
That is a so interesting question. So maybe I'll start by framing that sometimes it starts with how you see yourself. So you always have to be clear about your own identity. Because the shift is not necessarily that you have changed the way you see yourself, but the way people see you in a different environment, it changes. So the way you are seen in Nigeria, nobody introduces me in Nigeria as this black, interesting female leader. No, the word black doesn't show up.
Doesn't show up.
Maybe you will say she's Igbo, maybe to indicate the tribe.
Exactly.
But being black is not a thing.
No.
When everybody is black.
Everybody is black.
But of course, when you show up in Europe, being black starts to be a thing. So I think the shift is in the way others are now seeing you. So I think it's really important that you be clear about your own identity, because then it allows you to really define who you are and not get it confused if people's perspective of it is different. But you are clear about your own perspective. So I think just to put it out there. So of course there are parts of your identity that you cannot change or you cannot change. So being female comes with some of its own natural, characteristics, and in some circles, it doesn't mean anything. I haven't gone to federal government girls' college. Gender was never a thing. I didn't occur to me like, oh my gosh, you're a woman trying to do this. It must be, because in that environment, everybody did it. Everybody had to get different rules and do things. Nobody said, okay, sorry, women cannot do this, so you're not doing it. If you have to claim, we all claim. If you have to, nobody said, oh, you cannot be a lecturer. It's only men that will. If you want to be a lecturer, you go ahead and be a lecturer. So those gender roles in that sense don't show up. But of course, when you come out to the workforce, being a woman is now a thing. And people are like, oh my gosh, she's a female engineer. I'm like, okay, it's not a thing. No, I didn't see it as a thing because I was told as an engineer, the goal is to solve problems, to use science to solve problems. Nobody told me how to do with my physical attributes.
No.
That doesn't do with my physical strength. It's the mental capacity and the ability to solve the problem, not how I show up physically. That is not the criteria. So it's in the circles you show up that you start to see that shift. That's how I would view it. But if you're quite clear on your identity, so it creates that confidence. I think that it really starts with that. And it's really good, especially when it comes to our kids, because our kids are now living in a very fluid environment. You know, they're schooling in different continents, showing up in different places. But it's good we make them understand who they are. Because once they understand who they are, the way people define them doesn't change that, because they're already clear. My daughter will clearly tell you, I love my hair. It's thick, it's nappy, it could look stubborn, but I love it.
Aww.
Because she has understood that hair, that part of her identity, is something she has to be proud of as a Black woman. Nobody has the opportunity to have that type of hair. It's only Black women that can have that type of hair. And because you're Black and you're proud to be Black, whatever comes with being that, you should be confident and appreciate it and see it from a good light. So in the way she will communicate it, she won't be apologetic about her hair. And she will remind you that, oh, this is my hair and you have to treat it this way. Don't treat it that way, because that's not good for my hair. So she will tell you this is how she wants her hair treated. And she'll be very, it's so funny because she will go to the salons. I say this example because it looks simple, but that's really for me communicating, understanding your identity, and then it brings some part of confidence because you've accepted and you see it as a strength. It gives you confidence. So confidence is you being happy with that state. And in the way you communicate it, people can see it in the tone of your voice, in your body posture, in, even in the way you show up. You are not going to be apologetic and say, oh, this hair, it can be very dry, it's pretty. No, you're going to tell them how beautiful this hair it is. Don't be deceived. It shrinks, but it's really very long. That's what I love about the hair. We can make it look short, but it's really very long. So creating that acceptance is very good in terms of, especially in this modern world. But it allows you to show up in the room. When you have come to terms with your identity and accept it, you show up with confidence, because when you talk about it, you're talking about it from the point of view, this is who I am, and this is what I bring to the table. So you look at it from the positives and the strength. And I think if you communicate that, people can say it's confidence, but people buy into confidence. People start to admire it. And I can't touch your hair. This must be really good. You're saying as a Black woman, this time, like, yes. And people tend to, they don't see it as you could say something like, oh, no, this is the color that will work for my skin tone. Because, it's in certain things like telling, because I used to tell my daughter, like, because of the environment you see yourself, when you take these pictures, the lighting doesn't work for your skin. So you end up showing up as like a shadow. So please make an effort not to be showing up at the back. So we don't want to be a shadow. And she will then communicate that to you. Because of that awareness, she will tell you, oh no, ma'am, I would like to stay here. I think I prefer staying here.
When I was having those interviews with BBC, I would tell them, saying, you have to put extra light on me, even like with the
I
other.
would like warm light. You cannot articulate your need because it is not a minor, it is not a negative. It's when you take up other people's identity of you. You start to see it because it's in relative to them. So, or because white light works for them. If it doesn't work for you, then something's wrong with you. No. White light works for you, it doesn't work for me. Warm light works for me. So give me warm light and give yourself white light.
If I'm in Zoom meetings and I have like white colleagues around me and I'm in the middle, you will just be seeing them. You won't see me. So I'll just go to them and be like, this is the light. It needs to shine on me.
Yes, but because you are communicating your need, because you're communicating from a place that I'm happy, I'm self-aware, this is who I am, and I'm happy about it. This is the parts of the identity I'm really very happy about. But I'm telling you so that we can walk it in a way that this, my strength, remains my strength. It might not be your strength, but it is my strength. So let's position it as what it is, my strength. So I think if you start to do that, we don't, whatever people want to call it, they say it's confidence, but I think it's just being aware that this is a positive part of me. And it is who I am.
Absolutely.
It might not work for you because you are different, but the diversity brings strength.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean any less that because my hair is black or your hair is straight or I'm dark and you're white or I'm male and you're female. Actually, it's not diversity that's strength. It's the fact that we come with our diverse skill set, experience,
Innovation.
uniqueness.
Yeah.
That's how we solve complex problems.
Absolutely.
Because if it's only men solving problems, then female type problems will be no solution. When it's men and women solving together, then we can solve problems that way. So for me, is really in very simple ways, understanding that you have to own your identity. First, understand it, own it. And because you own it and you're aware about it, you see it as a plus. And then you communicate it as a strength or as a plus. And people start to respect that and accommodate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This one thing I've been picking up as we've been going is like when you see those things that would normally look like a weakness, own them as a strength and not just being aware. You need to put yourself out there and say, I realize that this may seem this way, there might be this bias, but see, I am equal to
because in subtle ways you're communicating and educating your audience because they don't know any better, isn't it? Maybe because they don't know any better, they think that hair is bad. Maybe if they knew better, they know that the hair, the color, even the fact that you have an accent.
Not a problem.
We don't know how to speak that way.
No.
The important thing that we're speaking, you want to communicate in English and the grammar is right. But in the tone and the accent, because we also have other first languages.
Yeah. Can you understand me? Yes, we're good. Thank you so much. I think we're going to move on to reading. I know I'm getting tired. I must assume you're getting tired as well.
Well, you came all the way, so we'll make it worth it.
Reading culture. Because I think in the book, in the Be Fearless, which she's going to sign for me today, I noticed somewhere that you said when you were still coming up in your career and you meet people, you're always drawn to books. I saw that and you're always drawn to books. And I'm like, oh, she's going to like me actually. Because I love books, but and then I've gone through, I told you, educated by Tara Westover already. So
I love reading, and you can tell.
I can see. So
and this is just a small snippet of my library, and I have way.
Wow.
Especially now that it's electronic, but yes, I do love
reading. And that's this section is reading culture and how it has shaped you. Well, let's ask, what's your reading culture like? Well, how do you choose books? How do you retain what you've read? And how has reading shaped your decision making and leadership overall?
So my reading has evolved, to be frank. So basically, I love acquiring knowledge because I found out when I was quite young. That's really, for me, it was in my head. I thought that was the only asset I had.
Oh yes.
I thought,
I didn't have toys or anything. I only had books.
Just to read. So let's invest in it and let's go. But then I found out it makes me happy. Just that knowing that knowledge and trying to share that knowledge. So I just, I will delve more into reading. And I started to see the rewards. So it reinforces the habit the more. Because now you get an A, you do well, you're knowledgeable. You acquire new skill sets, you're learning from other people. I used to say that people will be my mentors and I've never seen them, but I've read every book. Every book. I've watched every podcast. And it's almost like I know them, but I don't know them, But that is because of what reading. I also learned that to read, I had to write. So I retain more when I take notes. I always have notebooks, Oh, wow. You see notebooks.
Yeah.
I like to read. And I used to do that so meticulously when I was single. Even my husband thought it was absurd. Like I would have pages of a book I read written in another notebook.
Whoa.
Just notes from that book. Chapter by chapter. It was very meticulous.
Oh wow, okay. I'm not at that level yet.
No. So it's evolved with time. I think that type of reading has evolved, but I still take notes because there's something about reading and writing.
Yes.
It creates that assimilation and retention that you need to keep what you've read. Then something I was doing when I was single was creating blocks of reading time. So it was easier when I was single. So when I showed up at work, work could be maybe commence at 8. I always show up at 7. I will lock myself in the room. And 1 hour is dedicated to reading. Just my own personal development. Anything I wanted to read. I don't read emails then. But of course, I said it evolved because when I became married and I had kids, I found out I didn't have that 1 hour. Because that time I'm either changing nappies, taking someone to school, there was something. So I started to do sporadic reading. I would read in the car. I would read anywhere and anywhere I could get it. So you will see me carry books a lot.
Wow.
So then I still have dirty books because the books were with me. I carried the book everywhere. There's a delay in the meeting 5 minutes. So I use the 5 minutes and catch up.
Wow.
There's traffic in Lagos. Okay, it's okay. I used to enjoy it. That's how I used to be so excited there's no traffic because I needed the traffic to catch that 2 hours reading all the way home. Because then, the driver will drive. So I started to adapt my reading style to the reality of my new role as being a mother, as a wife. And sometimes I would create blogs. Okay, when I go on vacation, but I always love to acquire knowledge. In the ways I read, they are also in phases. So I read based on something that is interesting me, something I'm trying to research, or a part I feel that there's a gap. So, for example, when I got into motherhood, nobody trains you in motherhood. Nobody sits down and gives you a training on, okay, this is how pregnancy is going to be. Of course, you go for this antenatal, but they're not telling you how you're going to manage motherhood. No. So I invested a lot. I used to have this pregnancy book. I'll buy one, like a lot.
Wow.
And when I had my kids, I bought a lot of, kids, child rearing, emotion. Like, there were so many books I had on motherhood, rearing kids, parenting, because I felt it was a skill I didn't know how to manage it, so I would buy. If I had a gap, like I was struggling with, navigating a part in your marriage, I would actually buy a book on it. That's how I go about it.
So need-driven.
So it was really need-driven. There was a time in my career I thought I had plateaued and I didn't know what I wanted anymore. So sometimes when you achieve what you want, you're asking what next.
What next?
So I remember in that time, all I did? I read autobiographies of great people. I just read even people you didn't care, diverse.
I can see Becoming by Michelle Obama.
I read Lewis Hamilton, F1 driver.
Oh yeah.
Beyonce. Everything from politics to arts to literature.
Wow.
I was reading all kinds of autobiographies. Wow. I just read wide.
Wow.
But it was really autobiographies because I wanted to be in that world. And it was also because I was asking myself, what is success? What does it take to be success? What do you do? Because I was not even realizing that success wasn't the acquisition of things. So people think, oh, now I'm going to be a manager, a director, I am successful. So I was really trying to understand and define for myself what is success. I was reading a lot of autobiographies. Then, of course, I moved into a phase of leadership. Then I read a lot of leadership books. So it's actually just changed with time. If you checked here, I was reading a lot of books then. At that time, it was public speaking,
I just read this book, Building a Story Brand. Yes. I just read it last week.
It was all about building brands, presentation, because I was trying to do that at that time. I was trying to understand how do you differentiate your personal brand and your business or professional brand, because it could be actually different. You could be a leader of a company, so you have to show up as the face of the brand. But you also have your own personal brand. So you have to figure out how to differentiate and communicate both differently. So for me, it's been really need-driven, and I've taken it. So I think because you do that, you also adapt. You adapt what is needed at that time. It came to a case. The part I've always struggled with, people thought audiobooks were good, but audiobooks, this thing about feeling the paper and reading it and writing all over the whole place. So audiobooks I've tried, but
it's not yet.
It didn't really stick.
That's what's helping me now.
I listen to podcasts. I love podcasts, but audiobooks, I don't know why. But I do a lot of podcasts. A lot. There's some podcasts I'm on routine. Like every Friday, I know. All in podcasts, I'm listening to it. It lands around midday my time on Saturday. So that's my thing. I put it on and I'm cooking or doing whatever I'm doing. So podcasts for me, I do love. But audiobooks, I don't know why. Because even in doing my quiet times in the morning, because of how erratic sometimes life has become, I thought, maybe I should try the audio Bible. But I don't know, it still didn't stick. I was like, no, I want to read the thing. I want to read it.
I think for me, audiobooks have been very helpful in bridging that gap. I'm now trying to move back to my physical. I've started buying one book 1 month now to start filling my shelf, but I still struggle with fiction with audiobooks. There's no way I can read fiction. It's not possible yet. So that's the only place I'm struggling. But I had to force myself to do audiobooks because there's no other way.
I tried. I don't know why. Maybe because some people say chapter 1. I'm like, no, chapter 1, I should be taking notes on chapter 1. I didn't know what he said. I can't remember. But I do podcasts, maybe because it's now an interaction.
Yeah.
So I become the third member of your audience. So maybe mentally, because as you're talking, I'm also engaged. I'm like, oh, I don't like that viewpoint. That viewpoint makes sense. If I think about my own, so it makes it, but I don't know why.
So Educated, this by Tara Westover, I don't know if she's the one that narrated, but the narration of the audiobook matters a lot. So sometimes if the person is using 3 different voices in that audiobook, I would love it because even Mel Robbins, she narrated her book, Let Them Theory. It was so wonderful.
Maybe I'll give it a try, but I do podcasts a lot. But the audiobooks hasn't really landed.
That's okay, Mom. Thank you so much. So I want to ask a question about visibility and like putting out, creating, not necessarily content, but being visible, especially for someone who is high profile now for you. Do you feel it has cost anything for you, and how do you still again on boundaries and all?
So visibility for me is good. Like everything will have its pros and cons, but from my viewpoint, it has more pros.
More pros
than cons. Especially in leadership, you can't shy away. There's a reading about being a leader, isn't it? Now, how do we know the leader? How do we bind to the leader if we cannot see the leader? And not see in terms of physically, but understanding how the leader thinks, what they stand for, who they are. I think those are key elements of leading, isn't it? You're going to buy into a vision, but you want it to align with your own values as well. So I think as a leader, it's especially in this modern day where we communicate using social platforms, it's important, more so for women.
Wow.
More so for women because we've also been trained and groomed to see it as a bad thing, while in the workforce it is an edge. It's actually a plus, it's an edge. Because I remember as a young career professional, I just thought people should know, like, I did this project, I did this, I'm good at this, I was this, then they should know. Why should I be telling them? They should, Then I realized that when the chief sat down, nobody even remembers. People will give people that had no clue or did not even do 1/10 of what you did. And that's just because you didn't call it out. So I started realizing it was important to do that. And it was because as women, it's just like telling a woman to ask a man out on a date. It's weird. I thought it was weird. I remember when my mentor first told me, why don't you tell me? Like, I'm like, no. You don't think I'm cheap. You don't think I know. So when you come with that mindset to the workforce, you also applied. I said, be telling my manager I did this. Did he know? Did he see? But did he see in the presentations? Did he? Is it because it was somebody else that presented? I was on the team. I contributed the most. All the parts of the work nobody wanted to do, I did. But the truth is that maybe they don't know.
They won't know.
Maybe they don't know. And maybe your ability to communicate gives them the confidence that you can do it again and again. And that's one of the things I learned climbing the ladder. That it was really important not just to do the work, but to show up and share that you did the work, which most times we don't do, especially as women. So that said, of course, there are also other parts of visibility. You can also use it to share ideas, to teach, to educate. So it's got its own positives. But of course, sometimes it got its own cons because sometimes people don't think that they know you and maybe they don't really know who you are. Because at every instant in time, you're communicating a path or a version. But you're also growing, Maybe 10 years ago I said this, but 20 years later I realized, okay, maybe I need to put a small caveat there. I've now evolved and seen that it's not as easy as that. So it does come with that. But I think really owning up and showing who you are allows also the audience to grow with you.
Grow with you. Wow.
Because then they tend to say, oh, okay, that's interesting. She even said it that, 5 years ago she wouldn't have agreed, but now she thinks that, she would think differently. Just like if you had asked me 20 years ago, I'll tell you clear cut, I'll never work for public sector.
Wow.
I don't do that. And I might have something out there that I actually said that I said I'll never.
I'll see if I can find any.
And 20 years later, because I used to say it, because I first did my internship for utility power company, what we used to call NEPA. So after working there, like, nah, I never work in public. This is not the kind of, I want a place where, things. So 20 years later, tongue in cheek, I'm like, okay, I said that just in case I told it to you, but I have a different viewpoint now.
Yeah.
So it's just some of the cons, but also it's how it's managed. Yeah. It's how it's managed. But I think the pros are more than the cons. The positives are more.
Amazing. Thank you so much. One last question. When you look at me as a person, I would like to know, what do you see?
That's not an interview. That is me now assessing Chidima. I think I love the fact that you are courageous. Oh. I love women that are courageous. And it takes a lot to say, hey, you might not know me, but I would like to do this with you. You don't know what the response would be.
No.
And you kept asking, And even when I said, okay, you'd be like, oh, no, if you want to do it there, I will show up there. I think it takes a lot of courage. And in that vulnerability, there is strength. So I do appreciate that. It also takes, I think it takes a unique type of skill to look at your own journey and say, I'm looking for people that have either gone on a senior journey or gone ahead, and I want to learn from them. And I would intentionally look out for them. Now, for most people, it was more serendipity. It just happened. They didn't plan it. For you to be intentional, I think that's a different kind of skill set. Most times, it's people that are goal-driven, that will be like, okay, I want to really map it out and see who has done it before, who can I reach out. Some people will find out who are doing it. They don't even have the courage to now say, let me even approach them. Yeah, they might say no. But they might say yes. And I will try it. But also, one of the things, of course, having chatted with you now for like a day plus, is I also appreciate how you've showed up in your career. I'm actually very impressed, not to say impressed, but even proud. Let me put it that way. Because most of us women, we will struggle with our different roles. And most times, the part we will easily trade off will be the career. Because society will create that guilt for you that if you didn't prioritize this or this, you're a very bad person. Now, it's a different thing to say that I'm struggling with this, but I want to have a conversation about it. And I want to hear from you. What is your take? This is what I'm thinking, but I'd like to hear your take. I think that's, for me, is leadership. Because it's the conversations we're not having that is making a lot of women struggle. If we have these real conversations, we can even have it then with men. So I'll tell you one of the things. When I was writing this book, intentionally, I thought my target audience were going to be women. Until I don't know who I was talking to, like, no, your target audience is not women. It's men. Men that really have to understand women.
Wow.
And she made me get my husband to write a whole chapter. The chapter of that book was written by my husband.
Like, this man
said, you need another man to share with men. And you don't blame them, because remember, that's also, even us women, that's how we train our sons, isn't it?
Yeah.
We train our sons like, oh no, don't do this, it's not this, a girl's thing. Why are you the one cooking? Don't claim. Let your sister do it. Oh, my son, you are the whatever. But if it's your daughter, no, don't take that risk. No, don't give her hard things. So to have these conversations we're having, I respect what you're doing, because most women are struggling in silence. These conversations are not had, and nobody is telling them the truth. So they are stuck with not having the tools to navigate it. And I think sometimes it affects their marriage, their relationship, their mental health, their spiritual life, because they're trying to deal with this without tools.
Well, do you know, you just described the quiet learner, our description, like this platform gives you the tools and the roadmaps to navigate, especially when there's no clear roadmap with books. And this you just described our description.
Because, sometimes they share with other women that already even make them feel more guilty. Just because those women maybe are not on the same path with you, or maybe they're also afraid.
Yeah.
So they rather take to what society thinks is safe.
I kid you not, I love my husband a lot. Like, we have these conversations, but till today, he doesn't understand the concept of his screen.
And it's okay, because, remember that where he's also coming from, his experience.
Yes.
He's
because
been
his
told-
own path has worked for him,
Yeah,
and he
so
doesn't
he's also
understand
trying to look at it from that lens.
lens.
So what he will do is respect the conversation by hearing and
Hearing it,
listening.
yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean he understands it, but that's okay. That's a step, a positive step, as opposed to not even wanting to listen. And I think because we don't have some of these tough conversations, I did a session with someone, and we're talking about what people should be talking about when they're dating. I'm saying you should have this, and it's very tough because the woman is afraid if I show up as who I truly am in the date, would it intimidate the man? Would it scare him off? But if it's really a man that loves you, he would even tell you, I don't understand what you're talking about, but I really love you, and now let's figure it out. Because I would tell someone that, do you know some of the things I said when I was dating my husband? He's the one that reminds me. He's the one that first told me that, when you told me that you're going to be a CEO one day. And I look at this girl, I'm like, what is she thinking about? Have you forgotten? I'm like, did I tell you that? Was I not even open? He said, oh no, you told me it was going to be worse, because then I used to travel. And he was asking me after the career, like, I think it's going to be worse. Because for where I'm headed, I'll even have more travel. And I was going ahead saying, I told him all these things while we were dating.
Oh my God.
But it didn't scare him because he wanted to know the real Jane.
Yes.
Because if he knew the real Jane and he loved the real Jane, he will walk with the real Jane, and Jane will walk with him. It's so important for the two. You know, it's not a man's world or a woman's. How can you together? Because at the end of the day, that's what the kids will see. That's what our kids will see. The kids, my son will see the way my husband treated me. And that becomes a model for how he would treat his wife. My daughter will see the way the mom is working with the dad, and that for her is a model of how, oh no, I'm looking for a husband that would also, let's do this together. So I really appreciate what you're doing. It's really important. It might not be, people think it's boring or whatever, but I think there are lots of women out there that this would have helped their path, or this will help their path.
Like to think you're squiggling, that's okay. You don't need anyone's permission. This is working for you. It's working for your family. That's all that matters.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ma. And I think I would like to come to the point of signing the book. Thank you.
So that we're doing the term. This is the whole.
Thank you so much. This is my copy of the Fearless, which I reviewed on this channel, but I brought it all the way from where I'm coming from so that she can sign the book for me.
So maybe I'll do something. Let me take it a step further.
Oh my God.
So I've decided to give her rather a hard copy of the book. So this is a hard copy.
Wow.
I think we had limited editions of it because it was hard copy. So
this is paperback.
The paperback we sold, but the hard copy I normally would give.
Oh my God.
People I thought are really very special, which I think Chidima is. She is very special now. So I'll give her a hard copy. So I would sign an autograph on a hard copy and I will give that to you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Do you need my pen?
Yes, I will do that. Since we are not doing it on air.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So Chidima, I know I wrote it, but I would like to read it to you. Dear Chidima, thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
Being courageous and sharing with others, very important. Please keep up the good work. I am rooting for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So that is for you to keep up the good work. I know that you're on the right path.
Oh my God. Thank you. I hope I will watch this video, let's say in 5 years, 10 years, and I want to remember this moment. I want to remember.
Please do. I keep such videos because that's how you get energy. I still remember a video I did with a coach. I think it's like 10 years ago. When I watch it, I'm almost brought to tears. I still kept some notes that someone wrote for me, some of my ladies from Harvard.
Wow.
Because after we did that whole session, everybody gave a reflection. They were like my board of advisors. So after staying with me for like a week, they gave a reflection of their thought. I still have a note from my daughter and my son on, how they see me as a mom. Especially at the time when I thought I wasn't really the best mom, because you're literally flying around the whole world.
Wow.
And when I saw the way they saw me, I was shocked.
Wow.
Because I didn't even think that I was that, a mom, but the way they saw me was so important. So I would say yes. These are things that give us energy.
I have some of the cards I got from my colleagues when I gave birth to my son. They are like magneted to the fridge. The gifts can go.
I think one of my friends doesn't know, Esther Anibu, she's my great friend. We were in university together. I still
So
I still have somewhere, I believe, a note she wrote me in 40 engineering.
wow.
So that's how sometimes because it's those, and I will give this as a free bonus to women. These are some of the little ways you can also really inspire and motivate yourself. Because life can be hard. The journey can be hard. Even though we are making it look so, we are saying there are moments that you are low, you are sad, you don't see a way out.
Yeah.
And it's that reminder of this is who you are.
Yes.
That is what kind of jots you up to say, oh my gosh, why am I in this state? This is who I am. Well articulated, then let's do it. So life will be hard. There will be highs and lows. But in those lows, may we have such to give us that inspiration to keep at it.
Thank you so much. Like, I don't know how to put this into words. Thank you for letting me be here. Thank you for access. Thank you for everything. For me, I feel like I've just come to this place to be blessed. Like, I have an elder, speaking over me, speaking blessings over me.
Definitely you do.
Thank you so much. Like,
I'm very confident. Definitely, I'm rooting for Chidima because I see her. I definitely see you going places.
Oh my God.
Definitely. I definitely do that.
Thank you so much. This has been a lot of wisdom. The editor is getting ready to edit, and I'm hoping like this will inspire people who I know there are so many interviews out there, but hopefully we're able to get something that's.
I think so. Sometimes when we share.
Yeah.
That's what I said about, giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
And most times we're looking for, no, we want validation to be able to share. And we think, what am I sharing? Does it make sense? Just what you're going through. There's so many other women. And that's why I'm saying just keep doing it. Your ability to share would mean that some woman you don't know in Saudi being overwhelmed by this whole thing just listens to that part. And then she'll be like, oh my gosh, so this is how they did. And that's all we needed was tools. Tools and ways to navigate. It didn't mean they were mean or they were bad. They didn't love their husbands. They didn't love their kids. They are selfish. It just means nobody was giving them any tools or guiding them. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. So to anyone watching this, where can we find you? I think LinkedIn.
I think we'll put the handles there, but I'm very active. I'm even on TikTok, even though my kids think, what am I doing on TikTok? They're like, Mom, they don't want me to follow them on TikTok, but I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. But I show up as Jane Egerton-Idehen in most of these platforms.
Yeah, I'll put all the handles everywhere. Yes. Thank you so much.
I'm always very active and happy to connect.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma, for doing this. We appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Everyone, see you on the next episode of The Quiet Learner with whichever guest we bring on the show. Thank you. Thank you for watching to the end. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.